You're an airline pilot.
That's what I am. I know, it's crazy.
Could you believe that?
My first day. It was a big deal. Like, I'm sitting here, and the check airman's trying to. He's trying to, like, I'm obviously I have things I have to do. I have duties I have to do. But
your first day on the plane.
Yeah, my first day on the plane. I just there's duties you have to do, and we're taxiing out, and I'm just sitting here like, I cannot believe this is we're taxiing around. I mean I don't have any connection to SeaTac, right? But
right, that's a
but
whole new environment.
Still, it's like, dude, I'm in a place. It's like when you're in a smaller airport. Okay, so let's say Gateway, right? We're in Mesa there. Everyone's always looking. The Airbus comes and lands. It's like, oh, cool, big plane's here, right? But then now I'm in this environment taxiing around, and it's literally just that's all it is.
SeaTac is known for it's tight.
It's a tiny airport, yeah.
Tiny airport, and lots of not big, like 737s are relatively big, but it's a tight environment.
There's not much heavy traffic. The heavy traffic, I mean, they go to the S gates, and you'll see a couple 350s, 787s, stuff like that. Actually, I feel like every time I'm there, I see at least one. And then you see the cargo guys. It's mostly a lot of cargo guys that go to the 767s, A300s, 777s.
But they park further north.
Yeah, they park all the way
FedEx.
at the north end right there. It's right by the end of 16 left. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's pretty cool though. Like,
do you ever look at a Q400 and think, I want to steal it and do loops in it?
No, I don't think that at all. That's not
Does that
something
not
I think of.
cross your mind?
I mean, it'd be cool.
Because I thought that everyone thinks that when they see one from from that dude.
I mean, that guy had a lot of, I don't know, he had to have done some training or something like that to.
Could you imagine being a person? Think about it too. It's not like one day he woke up and said. It's not like one day he woke up and that was the first day that he had that thought. That can't be.
So okay, here's my theory, right? I think so. When you ever like, okay, so you're on an observation deck of a building, right?
Okay.
And you're like, dang, what would it be like to jump off this building, right?
If I'm sick in my head.
Well, no, I'm saying I have these thoughts all the time, but not in a way that like, oh, I want to. It's more like I'm just curious as to like what would be going through my mind in this situation. Now, I'm not gonna do it because I don't want to kill myself, right? I don't want to go do that. But I'm like, man, there's like a curiosity to that. I think it was something that was taken too far, right? So let's say your curiosity just completely took over everything, right? And then you had to know what this felt like, right? So then you decide you jump. But when you're in the air, you're already done, right? You've already made that decision. I think that's what happened. I think it was like, dude, this guy's sitting here thinking like, man, what if I just stole a plane? And then he does it, right?
So this is big. So according to your opinion, you're saying that he didn't want to necessarily kill himself that night until he found himself in a pickle in the air.
Yes, I think that's what happened.
You know what? I might agree with you.
I didn't know the guy, and I don't actually know. I mean, people don't talk about it. I'm sure there's people that still work at the airport that probably knew the guy, but that's how I picture it because no one said the guy was suicidal or anything like that.
I might actually agree with you because I really listen.
Because I mean, think about it. He didn't mean to do any harm to anybody.
Right.
I don't even think he would do any harm to himself.
Right.
And then, basically. I mean, I don't know if he would have gotten. I think he would have got fired for the pushing the plane back, but I don't.
He would have gone to jail if he landed that thing.
Yes, and that's the thing, right?
The rest of his life.
That's the problem. Where it's like, dude, the guy actually didn't mean to do anything crazy, but unfortunately, with we have 9/11 that happened, all that stuff. Stealing a transport category aircraft is going to be one of the worst things you could possibly do.
Whoa.
They're going to think it's some sort of terrorism of some sort. So that guy was 100% screwed. His life was ruined, right?
And maybe that's what prevented him. I'm with you.
Yeah,
I'm trying to picture myself in his position.
I think it was just one of those where you just had this desire, this curiosity, and then and now most people are. People can consciously make the decision that they're not going to go do said thing, right? I mean, I can't think of. I don't know. It's never like I feel like I don't know what kind of stuff I think of. It's just like in the moment or whatever. But like the building one's the best example I can think of. I'm just like you're looking down at a building like, dude, this is so high. Or actually, you know what? It's not if I jump. It's like, what if I fell off the building, right? It's like, dang, you're just like thinking about that. And it's just one of those where it's like, well, I'm going to stay away and I'm going to leave that alone. Otherwise, or for him, I guess it went the other direction.
But, I could relate to, I've stood on a 737 at the door in my life and I looked down. It's a curiosity thing. Like the height from a 737 to the ground?
Yeah. You
think to yourself, if I jumped, would I break my leg? Would I be able to walk away? Because you can't gauge, like, what will that height do to me? So interesting. So you're saying he probably he had to think about it for a while because he was swimming at home. He probably wanted to be a pilot.
Yeah,
probably. And then he found an opportunity.
Correct. But I think he had his opportunity from a long time. I think it was just, that was the day that the curiosity just completely took over. And he just once he got in the tug and started pushing the plane back, that was kind of it for him. Yeah.
You're done, because you can't go
I don't think he would have gotten arrested for that, but I think he would get fired.
And he would be embarrassed.
Yeah.
He wouldn't get another job.
Yep.
He'd have a background stuff, checks, problem stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He would have problems with the police. 100%.
Yeah.
I'm with you. It's so interesting to think about with what you're saying, where that line was. Obviously, he's not around to talk with him today, but where along that chain of events was that line beyond which he would have turned around if he had to, but beyond which he said it's just not worth it? It's interesting because he's not here to ask.
Once the engine was started. And the thing is, too, like, he had to have played a simulator.
Oh, no, he did. I think it was known.
Is that what it said? Okay.
Yeah, like I'm just like, guy.
There's a couple of things, like, I'm not, it'd be the same, maybe not like an E-Jet or like an Airbus or whatever, because that's pretty simple. You move a switch and then the engine starts. But like, there's a couple things you have to do to get the engines on. In our plane.
Yeah, so that's why you're like the person to talk to about this, because you probably more than anyone know, here's what it actually takes to get this thing started.
It's not like terrible, but there are a couple of things you have to know. It's not like, oh, I can sit here and figure it out, right? Well, actually,
how much time would I have to spend on the sim?
Yeah,
give or take.
Yeah,
before I could confidently jump in one of those and take off.
I don't know. I don't think the sim is ever gonna do the full thing. It gives you enough. You know exactly what you're doing. In our sims, they've got the landings down pretty good. So like, it's pretty similar to the sim. But it just takes time in the actual plane. Comfortable enough to get it off the ground. Oh yeah. Anybody can do that.
So if he's someone who's played X-Plane at home, he could jump into it, start it up.
Oh, for sure.
But
the problem is he didn't. So if you look at the story, there was skid marks because I think it took off on the center runway, and there was skid marks because he didn't turn the nose wheel steering on. He had to like use differential braking to get this thing to turn, which is, whatever. I'm surprised he got it lined up. I've never tried that.
So that's something that you'd have to know a little more in depth about the airplane specifically.
Yeah, I can see something in X-Plane like that's already on.
Right.
Or like if you play X-Plane and you just like automatically put the plane on the runway and you never like taxi planes or whatever.
Right.
Like you wouldn't know to put this thing on, but whatever, man.
Whoa. Do you remember it happening? Where were you at the time?
I do remember it happening, but I don't remember what I was doing.
You weren't in Seattle or in the area?
No.
I was in Seattle. I just finished a dinner and I walked down. Someone texts me and goes, "Do you hear what happened?" I'm like, "No." Someone stole a plane at SeaTac, which is crazy. Like, that was my home airport.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy cow. It was a sad ending.
Yeah, for sure. Ending. No one wants to see that.
The saddest thing, though, is like you said, I'm with you. He probably didn't take off intending to commit suicide.
Correct.
I don't think that's the case.
I think he just found himself in a pickle and it was like, this is the easiest way out.
And you hear it in the tapes too. He's kind of flirting with the idea of maybe I'll come back on the ground.
But I'm not saying, okay, so like he could be a statistical anomaly, right? But I'm pretty sure from what I've learned from psychological stuff, reading along, I think there's signs there.
Yeah.
And nobody saw any signs. And that's where it's kind of like, for me, it's like, dude, it's not like you can just ignore that. When people are depressed, man, and you can tell.
Depression.
Oh, yeah.
Dude.
You can tell. But everyone's like, I wouldn't have seen that coming.
Yeah.
When you hit it with I wouldn't have seen that coming, this is where I go. This is where my mind goes. And I think it's a curiosity thing.
I'm with you. Whoa. Listen, one thing I could relate to him or with him.
Yeah.
And you can too, is when you want to be a pilot, you want it bad.
Yeah. You have to be a pilot.
It's unlike other wants in life. There's many wants where it's like, if I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. I'm kind of curious, like whatever.
Yeah.
But any kid, we could totally talk to this. Any kid who grew up, at the airport, watching those big planes land, dreaming and, drooling over this idea of I want to be that. That's a big, deep desire.
Yeah, you have to.
And it's kind of scary if you don't know how to channel that. You know what I mean? Because if you channel that desire to, okay, go to flight school, become a pilot, put in the hard work, and you really kind of need that desire to get through flight school and to put in the hours and, do the stuff. You do.
Yeah, because, I mean, everything's it's a grass is greener situation, right? Everything feels like it's awesome. Like instructing is, it takes a toll on you, right? When you have to do it for a living, especially with most of the flight schools out there that don't pay that much, right?
Right.
You're like, man, I got to work like a dog to pay my bills, right?
100%.
That's kind of how it goes.
100%. And nothing in life is exactly what it seems like when you're pursuing the dream.
Yeah.
It's kind of what's good and bad about pursuing goals.
Yeah.
On the one hand, if while you were pursuing becoming a pilot, you were experiencing what you experienced 1,000 hours into instructing, you'd never finish your goal. You never achieve it.
Oh, for sure.
So
if
it
you
has
knew
to
it was
sort
coming,
of be,
Yeah, if you knew it was coming, and you have to get a certain distance where you're like, well, this sucks, but I'm gonna push through it because I've already gone this far, and that's basically what keeps you going. I mean, I could think about instructing when COVID happened. That was the worst thing that could have happened. I mean, like I'm just you go,
what's up with this timing?
I'm just thinking like, okay, so you have a nice month, you get 100 hours.
Right.
It's 100 hours. That's nothing.
That's a fat month.
Yeah, it's a big month, sure, but like it's still hard to see how much there's so much progress that has to be made for you to get your 1,500 hours. Like even that 100 hours is like, dude, I just literally I lived at the airport. I lived at the airport for this entire month, and all I've seen for it is 100 hours. Right? And it's like, okay, well, you just did your let's say you had just started, you had 500 hours. Right. Okay, so now you're at 600 hours. You got 900 more to go, man. and you got 900 of those grueling months to go. 9 months, 9 more of these grueling months to go to get your 900 hours.
Right.
So it's like,
and you did just give up a month of your life.
Yeah, completely. And you're just thinking, man, everyone, a year in general, in relative time, it's a short period of time, right?
Right.
But when you're currently in that year, it's almost like time slows down. But then, like, obviously, when you look at it after the fact, okay, so for me, I just finished it. I've been an airline pilot for about a year now. That year went by super fast. But I can tell you, when I was sitting on reserve and I had nothing to do, and I that didn't go by slowly. Looking back at it, you look at it and it's like, okay, yeah, that went pretty quick because I'm like, holy cow, I've been here a year. I can't even believe it.
Whoa.
But during the time, it's like, man, this is brutal.
Yeah.
Doing some long cross country with some student, and it's like, man, I don't know, this is taking forever.
Yeah.
Right? This is what I have to do. I have to sit in the plane for 1,500 hours.
But that's back to what we're saying about this dude, and about wanting to be a pilot.
Yeah.
That's how bad you have to want it.
Yep.
Because if you don't want it that bad, you wouldn't finish flight school.
Sure.
You wouldn't get your private. It sucks too bad. It's hot. You're nauseous. It stinks.
Yeah.
Your instructor sucks.
Could happen.
You hate everyone. You're spending money.
Yeah.
You have a headache. It's just there's too many things to go through and put up with to where if you don't want it bad enough, you'll never get it. Most people.
True.
Most people.
I agree.
Most people. And then, once you get to instructing and once it hits you in the face, it's a different reality. But that's anything in life.
Yeah.
That's anything in life.
It's literally anything. And there's actually something in psychology that talks about that.
What's that?
Where
it's Is there a term for it?
I don't remember. It's just basically like, okay, so let's say there's me. I love flying planes, right? But once someone starts offering me compensation to fly planes, it actually becomes less enjoyable for me. Yeah.
It's a job.
It can convert something. If you're doing something you want and it's just for you and it's not for money, it's not for anything, you will enjoy it a lot more than you will when you start getting paid for it. That's just how it goes.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm on day 4. I've always wanted to be an airline pilot. I'm on day 4 and I'm like, man, I really don't want to be here right now.
That's where to go.
I would love to go home and just, play some video games or something. I don't want to be here. But hey, it's, it's not all fairy tales. But I can tell you the one thing I can say that I know that I'm passionate about aviation is that when I'm off for a couple of days, I can't wait to get back. I can't wait to get back. Now when that 4-day trip is ending, like, please, I don't want to be in this metal tube anymore. But But like I have 3 days. Let's say I have 3 days off. I'm like, I can't wait to get back. I'm like, man, I miss landing. I miss taking off. I miss all that stuff. I miss talking to people, learning about the captain you're flying with, especially if it's somebody new. I like flying with new captains. I think it's dope.
I love it.
Yeah.
Dude, we'll get there. We'll talk about about this. There's really so much to an airline pilot because there's so much background. There's so much like I've gone through this and here's the flight school and here's my instructing story and it's not like I'm trying to think. Every job has background, but the background of a pilot is so involved. And you've gone through different, you're at a regional, but then you talk to a major pilot. It's like, okay, I've been through 3 regionals and I've been through Air Force and I've been through, it's always so interesting. Incredible. So, okay. So I love it. We're getting sidetracked with stuff, which are great.
Yeah.
But so I ask everyone, every pilot I talk to. So like I said, we are a regional airline pilot.
Yeah.
And you fly the Q400 airplane, which I want to talk to you about flying because you mentioned once to me how it's not an easy airplane to fly.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious what you mean by that. But let's what I do with everyone. Let's go back and quickly walk me through. Are you the kid who always wanted to fly? Did you just fall into it? And like what? Let's talk a little bit about how'd you get to where you are today?
All right. Well, I've always wanted to be a pilot.
Always.
It was
just
weird.
Like
it was a weird thing. There was a couple things I had hobbies with. It was plane stuff.
Okay.
And then roller coasters. So into roller coasters too. I don't know. It was just the 2 things that would actually. It wasn't even just planes. It was like transportation. I thought trains were cool. I thought buses were cool. I thought planes were cool, but it was always planes was always the dominant one in that situation.
That's funny. You know what? I was in transportation. I was totally fascinated by tractors.
Tractors. That's so random.
Dude,
but yeah,
I wanted to be a tractor driver.
That'd be dope. And people just as a kid you fixate on something and that's how it goes. My dad went to Embry-Riddle. And so
you what?
My dad went to Embry-Riddle.
Okay.
So
you said my dad was brutal.
Yeah, no, I did not say that. No, my dad is awesome.
Tell me about your dad.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was violent. No,
he was brutal.
Yeah, so he went to Embry-Riddle and he studied engineering, but his naturally, if you go to Embry-Riddle, you're going to have friends who are pilots. And so a lot of the people that he was in school with, they, they're lifelong friends. They're friends that he's still friends with now. So
just like Wolby, all of us from flight school.
Oh, for sure. 100%. Like all these people. I mean, it's so cool, the community we have, and we all understand like our struggles and stuff like that. That's the best part about it. But yeah, so he knows them, and I grew up around these people. I remember I was visiting my dad's family in Jamaica, and then we stopped by one of his friends. Actually, a lot of the people who were there with him, not a lot, but like some of them he knew from Jamaica. He's Jamaican, so a lot of them are Jamaican, and some people he met there, some people he knew from beforehand. But anyway, they're all going through school together. A lot of them being pilots. So we visit. There's a guy, Mikey. We would, I guess one of the times, maybe I was like 6 or something like that, 5 or 6. We went over there. And we're just visiting, and he was just talking to him, my dad and him are talking, and we're just kind of, tagging along. That's how it goes usually. And he pulls out a book. If you know the Jane's Book of Aircraft Recognition, it's literally just this. I mean, it's like a size of, I don't know, like a regular Bible, let's say, right? It's not big. It's like a smaller book, but it has like 800 pages, and it's literally just aircraft recognition. So it'll be like, oh, this is what a 737-500 looks like. And it has a picture of it, has all the specs, has like what type of engines it has, everything on that, right?
So how to recognize different planes.
Yeah. It's literally a book, which is a picture of the plane, what kind of plane it is, and stuff about the plane.
Okay.
Right? So they had categories for private jets, they had categories for airliners, they had categories for, I don't know, little prop plane, all sorts of stuff, right? So So after looking at that, I was like, oh man, kid gets fixated. I got obsessed with it. I was like, that's dope. So that birthday, my dad, along with, I don't remember what else I got, but I mean, it was just, he got me that book.
Right.
I would take that book everywhere.
And you're 5.
I'm talking like, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. I'm talking like, I would take it. It's like as a teddy bear. I would take this book anywhere. We go to the mall. I'm walking around with this book in my hand. I kid you not. So like any plane passes over, I'm looking up.
That's it.
I'm looking up right for this plane, and I'm just like, oh, what kind of plane is that? So then you start getting better at recognizing from far away, all that stuff, right? So, it's almost like aviation. And I was actually talking to someone I was flying with earlier, like a week ago or something like that, about this. So they say that when you're when you're young, right, you can learn a language really easily,
right?
Because your brain hasn't like closed itself off yet, right? Your brain is very expensive.
You're
like you can, you literally can take in anything.
Right.
So let's say you're 5 years old, and I make sure that every day I'm talking to you in like 4 different languages, right? You might be slow to pick up all the languages, or you might be slow to start talking. Like actually, even younger than that, right? You haven't even started talking yet, and you're a little kid, right?
Right.
But they'll take that and then they can think in that way. So like if I teach you both Spanish and English when you're like 2 years old, when you're first learning language, you will be able to think in Spanish and think in English.
Whoa.
Now, if you are to learn Spanish right now, no matter what you do, you can get way better at it, way faster at it, but no matter what you do, Spanish is not its own thinking thing. You are thinking in English at all times, but you're just translating it in your head. Now, the more practice you have, the more you're translating, how fast your translating gets. So then people think, oh, you're a natural or whatever. But I'm just telling you, if you only speak English, and the only thing that you're going to be able to pile every other language on top of is English. Right?
Interesting.
So for me, I feel like, I mean, it was studying something, right? I was studying these planes. I feel like because I was younger and I'm looking at this, it's almost like it's a language to me. So like there's like, I mean, any plane, like I just know what planes look like. I know little things.
Whoa.
And so I'm talking like we're flying along and I see something at like, I don't know, 350 and this thing is like 30 miles away. I'll be like, I'll tell you what it is. I'll tell you what kind of plane it is. And how do I know that? I know like, oh, this specific plane has this kind of strobe light pattern.
Whoa.
Or like the beacon's like this or whatever it is. I know that stuff, but it seems ridiculous. But if you think about it, if I knew what every plane type was by the time I was 5 or 6,
right.
What's adding like a pattern to it?
Right.
What's knowing what kind of engine this is?
Right.
What's knowing bubble XYZ, right? I'm not adding much to it. When a new plane comes out, it's like, well, I'm like, okay, I'm going to see enough about it in the stuff that I follow on Instagram or something like that.
Whoa.
So when I just add it to my repertoire of, or my collection of planes that I know. It's like A350 comes out. It's like, oh, it's a new plane. Well, I knew every other old plane. So
how in depth did that book get? You said strobe pattern. Like
no,
that's pretty deep.
That's not what the book got into. This is just like after the fact. I'll just read something, or like I just notice things. I've already noticed everything that the plane looks like. So then it's just like, oh, it's not like I'm trying to do this. I just look at it and I'm like, oh, I noticed that this plane does this.
Whoa.
Okay, so for instance, right, if you ever want to know. I mean, Seattle, okay, let's say in the Seattle area, it's easy, right? The only things that are going, it's mostly 737s.
Right.
And then there's some Airbuses, right?
Right.
Well, how you know the difference between the two of them? The 737, the strobe lights have like a long flash. The new ones, at least. They have a long flash, and it comes off, long flash, LED, right? Airbus has a double flash. It's like a quick double flash, right? And it's just little stuff like that. That's not hard to realize.
Right. Once you get that, you get it.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just stuff like that. I mean, it's pretty easy. And now the Maxes are coming out, and that's
They're out.
I mean, the Maxes being out, right? They're coming along a lot. I'm seeing a lot of them at the airport like every day now. And
you know why there's so many of them?
They're cheap.
Yeah, they're cheap. It's like you go to Costco and the popcorn's cheap. You go, oh, the expiration date's coming up.
I'm gonna buy a lot. It's literally what it is. Actually, a lot of people are buying them from people who got out of it. They're like, oh, I don't want. Yeah. They're like, I don't want the planes anymore. And they're like, okay, well, who can we sell these to?
Allegiant.
We'll sell it for like half price. And that's what they're doing.
50.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? And they're all Airbus.
Allegiant. What is it? MD-80 to A320s.
Now to 737
Max.
Yep.
Dude, they're cheap, huh?
Yeah.
This is the time to start an airline.
The Airbus is the better plane. The Neo.
So you're an Airbus fan.
It's not that I'm an Airbus fan. It's just a better plane. The 321 Neo, I think it carries 12 more passengers than the Max 9, so the largest Max. I mean, I know they're coming out the Max 10, but
unreal. It doesn't keep lighting you.
It hates me.
Mine lights me, but it doesn't keep lighting because you don't need it. You shine.
I guess that's what it is, dude. I guess that's what it is.
Well, no. I think let me connect it to the thing. Let's see.
Okay,
ladies and gentlemen, stick with us, and we'll be right back. Right back. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. No, I'm kidding. I love that you laugh at my jokes.
I haven't heard them in a while, man. It's been too long.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We will begin our descent here in about 35 minutes.
This is literally what you do in the plane.
This is what I do in the plane.
This is what you do in the plane.
We'll begin in about 35 minutes. And if you need to use the bathroom, this might be a good time to go ahead and do so.
Perfect time to do it.
Yeah. Seatbelt sign will be coming on soon.
Maybe.
But ladies and gentlemen, we got one of the lights that went out. One of the lights went out. And so that's why Andy's better lit. Better lit.
Shine bright like a diamond.
Shine bright like a diamond. Ooh, that's a good song I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah, it's actually a banger.
It's funny, you're from Florida.
Yeah.
Dude, I was living in, I know when the song came out because I know what year, because I was listening to that song on the radio all day long. 2012-ish.
What if it didn't come out in 2012?
Around 2011, No. It had to have been around 2011, 2012. It was on the radio all day long.
Yeah.
And I was in Florida. I was driving the Florida streets. I was living in Florida in 2012.
When that was on?
I was listening to it all day long.
Wait, where were you living in Florida?
I moved there for a few months to work with a friend on something.
Okay.
Yeah, in Plantation.
Oh, yeah, I know Plantation.
You know Plantation?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, lived in Florida.
South Florida. Broward? Is it in Broward?
Broward-ish County? Yeah, Broward County.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you know Plantation well?
I mean, there's family friends who live there.
Yeah. He lived on Nub Hill and Broward. And Nub Hill and Broward. I think so.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you.
Okay, so you know airplanes.
Yep. And then, played a little bit of flight sim. I wasn't really that interested in it. When I got a little older, I knew I still wanted to be a pilot, but I don't know. I just didn't.
Interesting. So you reach a point where you go, I could only think of planes, but then you reach a point where you say, I might not want to be a pilot.
No. I always wanted to be a pilot, but I just stopped playing Flight Simulator.
Oh, you stopped playing Flight Simulator?
Yeah, like I played 2004. I got Flight Simulator X, and then I got some add-ons. I thought it was cool. I don't remember why I stopped, honestly. I just stopped. I don't know. I think it was interest in high school.
Okay.
I preferred hanging out with my friends than like being at home and just playing Flight Simulator.
Right.
But yeah, I guess that kind of changed there. But yeah, so we'll fast forward a couple years. Ended up doing ATP.
So you went to ATP flight school.
I did.
Incredible. So I remember where I was holding in life. Like, each one has their own. Either I got my private and then I wanted to go to ATP to knock the rest out, or I did everything at ATP. Talk with me about the few months leading up to signing up to ATP. Where were you holding in terms of I want to be a pilot in your life?
I was like, I really want to be a pilot. Like it was just really bad. The desire was very strong, and I was like, how can I do this quickly? Everybody, dad's friends who are, at the majors, captains at majors and stuff like that, they're like, hey, this is the time to get in. You want to get in as fast as you can. I have one friend, one of my mom's friends. He helped me out a lot, and he sporties to like study for like the written tests and stuff like that. He gave me his account, and we just
knocked it out.
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't knock it out beforehand, but I had been studying for it, so then it was like, I don't know, it was just getting me into it and understanding some of the stuff I was going to be going through. And then he said, hey, you have to do ATP. He's like, it's the fastest way to get through it.
So you got your private at ATP too?
Yeah, I got
so
everything.
You did everything there?
I did everything at ATP, yeah.
So you show up to ATP, you know nothing, you know what planes look like because you had a book.
Yeah.
But you know nothing about flying, like actual.
I don't know anything about rules. The flying was natural because I played Flight Sim. Like it actually has a big difference, right? I knew exactly what I was looking for. I mean, I wouldn't say exactly. I mean, obviously, instrument, you learn a lot more about other things that are a little deeper than what most surface level people will do. Okay, let's say flying Flight Simulator. Okay, I knew that the planes go to the 30s, 1000s. I couldn't tell you like what would be an optimal altitude or something like that. I'm just like, you know what? I feel like I'm gonna go to 34,000 feet this time. And mind you, I'm on a VFR flight plan. Let's remember that I'm 34,000 feet VFR. So like, so
you're in class Apple.
Yeah, class Apple. Yeah, whatever. Real, jeez. Yes, I'm in class Apple.
You're in class Apple.
Yeah, and I'm in class Apple, and I'm VFR. Yeah.
You can't be VFR in class Apple.
Unfortunately, I can't. But I didn't know that. So I'm learning all these rules, and so like when I went up flying, it was the instructor was like, oh, like you're natural, and I'm like, yeah, dude, I don't know, I've seen this stuff before, so it's not like that. It's not that difficult, but I mean, obviously the realism of it, you're just like, oh, this is crazy.
So you're perfect. You're an airline pilot today, and you used to be a kid who simmed a lot.
Yeah.
You're perfect person to ask this because there's many people out there who play Flight Simulator.
Okay.
And for good reason, because it is a lot like the real thing. It's a lot not like the real thing.
Yeah.
In many ways.
Yeah.
Looking back, how helpful was flights? I know my answer to this.
Yeah.
In your opinion, how helpful, if someone out there's watching and says, I want to be a pilot, I play flight sim, how helpful is flight simming to becoming a pilot, looking back?
I think how do I describe it? I mean, I think any extra information is going to help you, right?
Okay.
I think that's how it is in general. It's good for practice. A lot of people use it for practice and stuff, right? But also, you can play flight sim without doing anything seriously. So you might not ever learn anything. You might know what instruments look like, and honestly, you probably don't even get the flight director set up, right? But I mean, like when you
but even if you're not doing anything, you're still flying and landing.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess you have somewhat of understanding. You don't really know what the knowledge is, but you kind of understand some sort of tendencies if the flight sim is realistic enough. But I mean, yeah, no, I think it's helpful. I do think it's helpful. I mean, you'll find that when you actually get into the real thing, it's a bit different, and there's a lot more factors too. Because if you're not let's say you're not editing the weather. You're always landing in like actually though when it's early in the morning.
The weather,
no, I'm saying true. Like I mean when I'm flying in the morning or like at night and it's just glassy, I'm like it's flight sim. Like I'll say that too. I'm sitting up there and I'm just like looking out and I'm like this is like flight simulator. It's so smooth, you know, because you don't have turbulence. You're not putting turbulence, not putting wind in there. Like you know the real world is a lot different than the sim world.
That's a great thing. So you're saying if someone is using the sim for the purpose of actually becoming a pilot, one of the biggest favors they could do for themselves is use real world conditions.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that at all.
You're not?
No.
Then why would it be a problem if I set my weather to clear and then in the real world it's not?
I don't think it's a problem. I'm just saying like the sim, I don't even know what I'm saying. The sim, like...
What are you saying, Andy?
I'm just saying, like, okay, the sim will help you out no matter what, right?
Helpful for instrument.
You're gaining some sort of knowledge, right? You're gaining some sort of knowledge.
Right.
Any knowledge is going to be good. I'm just saying that the real world has a lot of stuff, a lot of rules that you probably weren't aware of.
Right.
You can take flight sim very seriously. I know people have, like, there's, like, ATC things.
Pilot Edge.
Yeah, there's, like, all sorts of stuff where you can literally... you know, talk to someone and they're doing it the right way. And then you can find YouTube videos where they're like, hey, this is how you set up a box and this is how you XYZ. I'm sure you can learn a ton of stuff that way, right?
You could probably learn how to fly a Q400 off YouTube alone, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, there's flight sim people who show tutorials.
There's the Majestic Q400.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like 95% like accurate to what we do.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Same FMS, same everything, honestly.
So you could, so it sounds like flight sim will teach you as deep as you want to get on it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't even know. So, you know, the feds, like they talk about stuff like, okay, flight training. Flight training, it has to be treated as if you have to do background checks and stuff like that because it has to be treated as if it's a weapon, right?
But sim, anyone could
I'm
sim.
literally like, dude, they have these sims so accurate.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I remember in Flight Sim X, there's this add-on, the PMDG 737NG or whatever.
Dude, that's 1-to-1.
That thing is insane. Like the stuff that this plane is doing, I can't even believe it. Like the add-on itself is more valuable than the sim ever would be. The add-on just has so much information. It's like, okay, so learning how to fly a plane, you got to get like, you know, you got to make sure that like they won't teach it to people that aren't U.S. citizens, right? Or like you have to go through some paperwork to get that done. But I'm sitting here like, bro, they can just sit on Flight Simulator and learn it anyway, you know?
That is so fascinating. I actually fly the 737. I still sim. I sim all the time. Less these days. I don't have as much time, but I do sim. I have it on my computer and I love it.
Yeah.
And the 737 is actually I've flown that. I spent more hours on the 737 than any other airplane. And it is unbelievable. Like, I can confidently sit here and tell you that I can fly a 737 from cold and dark to cold and dark at one airport to another.
Yeah.
Confidently. Will the landing be pretty? Probably not.
Yeah. That's all that matters.
But who cares?
Can you get it to the ground? Probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will get it to the ground. I'll walk away and you could reuse the airplane. How's that? All from a simulator.
Uh-huh.
Which so fascinating that you talk about the background check. I never thought of it that way because you really don't need a background check to play Flight Simulator.
That guy stole a plane and flew it around.
Right.
He didn't have any flight training.
Right.
They didn't think that he was going to be a weapon to use for flight training. It just, you know, whatever.
Whoa.
We have so much technology these days, man. You can't hide anything.
Right.
Once it gets out and once someone has an idea, like, I mean, what are you going to do?
That is so interesting.
You know what I mean? You just have to trust that everybody's. I mean, I talk about KCM with people. Known crew member.
Right.
You could, like, you're literally just trusting these people to go through security and just, you know what I mean? But I mean, it's like a mutual trust for everybody. When I fly with someone, I don't think they mean any harm to anybody. So, and that's the mutual agreement between everybody. Now, obviously, you have things like German wings, right? Captain gets out to go to the bathroom and the FO just puts a slow descent and they fly into a mountain.
But that is, as much as that's sad, that is something that no one, no matter what you do, someone you can't combat that other than the only way to combat that. Even when I think of hiring, how do you make sure you hire me when I'm mentally stable? Because what if 2 years in I get divorced and I lose my mind? You can't combat that even with hiring.
You can't do it. And so I honestly think a lot of rules are just for peace of mind.
100%.
Like the amount of stuff that TSA misses.
100%.
It's insane.
100%. But what KCM has, and this is really the layer of safety there. Yeah. It's the randomness factor. It's the fact that they're not checking everyone's bag, but they could check mine.
Yeah.
And if I could be the one who's chosen, it's like cops on the street. Yeah. They're not stopping every car that speeds, but if I speed, I could be stopped.
Exactly. True.
I could be the one.
Actually, and I had a discussion with a dude sitting next to me on the plane. We're talking about, I don't remember what we're talking about, but it was like, I think it was weed, because we're like, oh yeah,
like random drug tests.
Yeah, drug tests. No one's gonna do any drugs because they don't want to have that possibility, right?
Randomness.
Now it could be a situation where you're like, I'm an airline pilot and I haven't been drug tested for 15 years.
100%.
But but you're still not gonna do anything, because that next day
it could happen.
That's gonna happen. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Exactly. And the dude you're flying with or the girl you're flying with, they just got drug tested 3 times this year.
Yeah, or more.
And they've never touched drugs in their life.
Yeah.
Because it's a random computer.
Yep.
So the randomness factor, I don't know what the term is. I'm calling it randomness factor, but the fact that I could doesn't mean I will. Yeah. But the fact that I could might deter me from making a decision which otherwise I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Make.
Honestly, I think people can get away. I mean, unless someone caught on to it, someone's got to get drug tested, right?
100%.
Just so somebody know. Actually, I'm gonna be honest. I don't even know anybody who's been drug tested. But
when you guys. So you've never been drug tested, I'm assuming?
No, not.
But when you guys do, have you ever seen a flight attendant get drug tested?
No.
So, okay, because I know that, like at Alaska, I'm sure any airline, they meet you at the door of the plane with a clipboard.
Yeah, I've heard that's how that works.
Okay.
I've just never seen it happen.
I got it.
I've just never seen it happen. But like I said, I feel like they can get away with never spending the money on these drug tests, but just saying that it can randomly happen will deter people enough that they don't have to worry about it. That's what I think.
From the company. Yes, but on the flip side, the company who has employees is legally required to have a company in place which provides the service.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense. That's fine with me. I don't have a problem with that.
Just like truck drivers and things like that.
Yeah, and it matters.
It's a DOT thing.
So I just feel like, okay, that works, sure. But then it was like, it's happening at such a small scale. Like I said, I don't know anybody who's even had one. People have been there for 20 years.
I'm with you. They could stop tomorrow and not tell anyone. And then the fact that you still think it's happening, 100%.
Yeah, and that's good that way. It should be that way.
Right. That's what it comes. But that's really what should deter you from taking drugs. It's the fact that it could happen.
Yeah, and I'm not. Aviation is like my drug, dude. It's like, actually though, like I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, it sounds corny and cliche, but
I need a picture, dude. I want to be a fly on the wall when you get stopped with a clipboard after a trip.
Like, please drug test me.
Yeah,
I love it.
And they say, and you go, aviation's my drug. What do you have to check that?
Yeah. I'm not gonna say. Oh, come on.
What do you have to test that?
Positive for aviation.
You tested positive for aviation, dude. That's so funny.
But like legit, I'm not gonna throw away my life, throw away this awesomeness for that. Like,
you'd think, but how many pilots said that? There was the
I don't know. They got driven down some.
How many pilots show up drunk to planes? It was on the news. There was this I think it was a Delta pilot. There's even the footage of him going through KCM.
Oh, and they dumped it.
And then they took him off the flight deck. I'm sure at some point. But that's my point. I'm sure at some point he sat down too and said, why would someone ever ruin that? He was probably just like us.
I mean, sure, flight school, but like I just cannot see myself ever being driven to, if you're a depressed state, whatever, you can drink on your days off or after you.
All I'm saying is, and there were two United pilots too who showed up to the plane drunk. There's a bunch of stories. Yeah. All I'm saying is this: I don't know if it's something I would want to necessarily. I hear where you're coming from, but on the flip side of things, you don't know what your attitude about sitting in the flight deck for flipping hours 10 years in might be. Yeah. Maybe you'll be so sick of it, and you'll be like, dude, I want to get into real estate. I want to get into like high tech. I want to do something.
Oh, that's a possibility.
Right. So these people, You don't know what their frame of mind was. They didn't have the attitude that you probably currently do about flying. And I'm not saying it'll change.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
You know what I mean? But I'm saying, like, and that aside, you don't know what's going on in their life.
True.
Like, maybe their wife just cheated on them with their best friend.
Yeah.
You don't know.
That could have happened.
Right? And he's like, what are and then in his mind, he's like, okay, what are the chances that someone will actually drug test me on this flight? Probably slim. Okay, then
True.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
then maybe it kind of like outweighs, and maybe I'll do a little shot or two, and then guess what? The TSA at KCM smelled their breath.
Yeah.
So you never know these things happen. I'm not saying that happened that way, but I'm saying, like, I'm not in his shoes. I don't know what's going on, but these people probably just like us sat there at some point and said, "This is my career. How could I mess it up?" And then there they were. They were pulled off a plane drunk. So I mean, I think we're all more prone to it than we realize.
Yeah.
Because certain things in life, you know, could get you to, it's crazy. Unless you really, like, think about it. It's scary.
Yeah, I mean, this means a lot to me, so.
As it should.
But I mean, I guess you're saying things can change, whatever it is. And yeah, I guess I can't empathize with the situation. I don't know.
I'm with you. No. None of what I'm saying makes it right.
I guess, okay, well, we'll backtrack here, right? I fly with people, I would say 80% of the people that I fly with could not tell you the type of plane that's in front of them.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm like you. I've never had an 800-page book.
Yeah.
But ever since I'm a kid, I've been looking at planes.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have a knack for it or if it's just something I paid attention to.
Yeah.
But I'm like you. I could very much tell any plane apart.
Yeah.
If I can't tell a plane, I'm shocked by myself.
I'm telling you, 80%
yeah, that's crazy.
of the captains that I'm flying with cannot tell the plane that's in front of them.
That's kind of weird to me, personally.
Okay, well, that's a lie. Everyone knows what a 737 looks like because that's all they see. But besides that, anything else?
So you're saying they can't distinguish between a 21 and a 20?
No.
And a 19?
Honestly, they can't distinguish between a 737 and a 21.
And a 20?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. No idea.
Yeah. The biggest thing to me, where I look, is at the tail. The 737, the vertical stabilizer, it doesn't go like the Airbus down and then across. It goes down, and then there's a long, shallow downhill until it meets the fuselage.
Yeah.
That's a very 737 thing, and that's like the first thing I look. There's so many things. There's the nose. Everything's different.
Everything's literally different. Everything. It's still low to the ground.
The winglets, everything's different.
Winglets are weird. It's got long, thin wings. Yeah,
that's insane.
Cool.
I love it. So incredible. So you go to ATP. So you go to ATP. You show up. And you say the flying comes easy to you.
Yeah.
Why?
Kind of. I don't know.
Just your
pulling
thing.
Back, pushing. I mean, I think of intro flights. Okay, when I gave people intro flights.
Okay. Did you do an intro flight?
No, I think I flew once when I was 17, and that was cool. But I didn't do like an intro flight for ATP.
But you did intro flights at ATP?
No.
What intro flights are you talking about?
No, I just like went. It was like a birthday, and I went up in like a 172.
Okay, got it.
When I was like 17, but
no, but when you just said intro flights, you're talking about the ones you've done at ATP.
Yeah, as an instructor.
Okay,
yeah. Okay, so when you do that, I mean the things they talked about this in CFI school, right?
When you get on as a
like,
CFI.
Let's say, is it negative learning or whatever it is, I don't remember what it's called, but it's like where you're on the ground in a plane and then you try to steer with the yoke.
Right.
I don't remember what the
negative transfer of learning.
Transfer of learning. There you go. Right. And so you're trying to steer with the yoke, but like because a car does that, but it doesn't do it that way. I'm saying that like the little things, like okay, I understood. Some people just show up and they don't know anything
because they didn't sim.
Yeah, they didn't sim. They don't know anything at all. They do not know how to make the plane to go up. They don't know how to make it go down. They don't know how to make it go right. They don't know how to make it go left.
They just, I don't want to say think, but they just kind of want to be pilots.
Yes.
Right.
They don't know anything about it though. They don't know what it entails. They have no idea how to control a plane. They don't even have the basics down.
Nothing.
Right.
They've never heard the term avgas.
Yeah, definitely not. I hadn't heard the term avgas. No.
I got you. Okay.
No, but they don't know what four things the yoke can do. They don't know that.
Okay.
Like it's something as basic as that. They don't know that they steer with their feet, or they don't know they have rudder with their feet.
I'm trying to remember if I knew these things on my intro flight. I can't remember.
I've done enough of them to tell you that a majority of people do not know that.
I probably didn't.
They just want to watch you do your thing. They don't know how you got the plane in the air. They don't know how you're getting it back down.
That was probably me.
They have no idea though, and so
yeah.
I mean, Yeah. If you know absolutely nothing, then that's like one extra step. That's a flight right there. It's figuring out how to get the plane to go up, down, left, and right. That's a flight. But if you already have an idea of how you do that, then it's like, okay, I know what I'm supposed to do. So when my instructor says, okay, well, like we're just gonna do a couple things. So I want you to put the plane in a climb. So just add some power and then get the nose up.
Right.
Well, they didn't have to say pull back, right? I'm like, oh, I understand. I'm gonna pull back.
So you showed up, and these things were kind of like it was second nature.
Yeah, that stuff was, yeah. And if I want to go down, I push forward. If I want to go up, I pull back.
Okay, so that came easy to you. Looking back, what was difficult for you in terms of flight school?
The hardest thing for me, well, I mean, I had a couple challenges for sure, but
other than making friends.
Yeah, no one likes me. That's the problem, you know. I was always bullied. Take my lunch money.
Other than making friends, what would you struggle with in flight school?
I would say in private, the airport that I was flying out of had tall trees, and I never wanted to descend.
Where was this?
Craig in Jacksonville.
Jacksonville, Florida. Okay. Yeah. That's the headquarters.
Yeah. I mean, Jack's Beach is the headquarters.
Got it.
I learned pretty quickly that Jacksonville is not the Jacksonville airport. Like the location is not like a headquarters location. They have their headquarters, like actual, admin building on Jack's Beach, or I guess Ponte Vedra. And then Jack's just happens to be a location.
Got it.
So it's not like, oh, the newest and best stuff, greatest place, whatever it is. It's definitely not that.
Got it.
Okay, yeah. Phoenix is definitely sick.
Really?
Phoenix is dope. Actually, now they built one in Fort Myers. That's insane. Apparently, like the building's just absolutely beautiful.
Wow.
Anyway,
okay.
So that's the point, right? Yeah, dude, I never wanted to descend. I thought the trees were too close, and I was like, dude, I don't want to hit the trees.
So descending was difficult.
Yeah, kind of. Like, yeah, like I would never like keep the descent going on base. That was one thing that I always had a problem with. Actually, it's funny. This happens actually even now in my airline flying. I kid you not. It's because I always think things are way closer than they actually are. So, okay, for instance, I'm doing a box visual into Reno who just popped out below the clouds. He's like, you want me to call it? I'm like, yeah, call it. And then it's like, all right, call it. Flight director's off. And then but the thing is, it's not trees this time. It's freaking mountains.
Right.
So I'm just like, dude, I'm like, I don't want to get a ground prox. Like, I'm not going to descend that fast. He's like, dude, you're still like 3,000 feet high. You're good. I'm like, oh, okay. So, I'm coming down, and then, it worked out fine. But,
that's funny.
you're.
So you know that about yourself, like you specifically, the way your brain juice it works.
Yeah.
You need to consciously say, I think I'm lower than I am, but I'm really not, and so I will descend. Like that's who you are.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I think I make a lot of mistakes, but I'm very aware of them, and I'm very aware of what I do. So prior to doing it, it's also how it instructs. Like prior to doing something, if I know that I consistently make this mistake, then I'm, consciously thinking about it beforehand.
Right, and you know what? That's what flying is about. I tell this to my students all the time.
Yeah,
it's not about not making mistakes as much as it is about recognizing and being aware of your personal tendencies. Keyword tendencies. We all have different tendencies.
Yeah.
Your tendency might not be to descend on time. My tendency might not be to rotate on time.
Yeah.
Different tendencies. As long as we're aware of those tendencies, we have the chance to combat them.
Yeah.
But if I'm unaware of them, I never know they're happening, and I could never correct for them.
Every single time.
100%. So I'm with you. And for anyone out there watching who's flight training, or who's thinking of doing anything, really. Yeah. It's not about being perfect. It's about knowing where I personally am most likely to not be and to catch myself.
Exactly. Private pilots, when you're teaching them how to do a pattern, man, there's a lot going on. I mean, I look at it now, and it's a joke. It's easy, right?
So every pilot who sat in your seat who were talking about, like, looking back, dude, they say it's comical looking back. Isn't it amazing?
It's so easy. The amount that's going on right now in the cockpit of an airliner is like, it's night and day. There's just so much more going on. But the thing is that because the longer you fly, the more capable you are of dealing with it, right?
What do you think it is? I could multitask better, or I could do things faster, or I know what's going on.
Doing things faster, for sure. When the first time you hop in the sim and you're trying to intercept a localizer, you cannot believe how fast that bar is coming in.
Right.
It's insane. Or, oh God, the biggest thing for me was like, dude, if your pitch, like you're trying to maintain a level flight, if you have your pitch wrong for like a second, you're already 100 feet off your altitude. You know what I mean? Or like you're pushing 100 feet off your altitude. It's getting pretty close, right?
Right.
You're just going so much faster.
Right.
Right. So like, you know how like when I don't know, let's say you're doing like 120 knots and then you yank back and you're you're whatever plane. You're like, oh, this is crazy climb rates. Okay, but it's that times 3 in an airliner. You know, the climb rates would be even crazier. You know.
Well, and the Q400 is overpowered.
Yeah.
It's like the 757.
It's got a lot of power, man.
It's like, so the power to weight is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we can't really measure it that way because it's in horsepower. So it's 5,000 horsepower side. So
it's 10,000 horsepower.
Yeah, basically.
Do you know off the top of your head? So this is another thing I tell my students. So I love this about flight training. 95% of flight training is transferable. What I mean is this: every plane has a max gross. Every plane has a basic empty.
Yeah.
Every plane has a useful load. And the cool thing about that is if you just learn it the right way, that knowledge is transferable to any plane you ever fly.
Yeah.
Off the top of your head, do you know what like the useful load of the Q400 is?
Oh, dude, I've never thought about it.
Got it.
Never thought about it. I mean, hold on. I guess useful load. I feel like our planes are like 39,000 and 65 twos are max. So, yeah, 25,000 pounds. About.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah.
25,000 pounds.
Yeah.
Total.
Yeah.
So 25,000 pounds, you have 10,000 horsepower.
Yeah.
Let's compare that for a second to a 172. 172 useful load is approximately what?
Empty weight with like G1000s was like 1,700.
Okay.
Or 1,600,
and 2,500 was max takeoff?
Yeah.
So you're looking at, let's say, 850 useful load?
Yeah.
So 850 and the horsepower was 180?
Yeah.
So 180 horsepower for
You
850.
can just call it 200.
200 horsepower for 850. And 10,000 horsepower for 29?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Pretty big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why you're climbing so much faster. You're going so much faster. The acceleration down the runway is so much faster.
That's insane. Yeah, because those things, when I take off in those, when I'm a passenger, it feels like you can almost, it almost could go vertical.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to me.
I mean, you also have to remember, too, turboprops are more efficient on takeoff. They're more efficient than jets. Like, you know, turboprops accelerate a lot faster.
Because I feel like they bite the air better.
Yeah, jets, you'll see. Like, so, I mean, like I said, I haven't flown a jet before, but let's say taxiing a jet, you'll watch, right? They'll add a bunch of power. Plane's not even moving. It's not even moving for a second.
But it comes down to the design.
Yeah,
Jets are designed for flight level 410.
Exactly. Yeah, they go up a lot higher.
The higher the better.
The air is coming way faster at the back of the engine. So like a big thing that for turboprops, it can only go so fast because there's only so fast the air coming off the props are going, right? So like I don't remember. It's like when we're at cruise props, I think like the tips of the blades are moving like 470 miles an hour or something like that. I remember I did the math, right? So the tips of the blades are moving 470 miles an hour, right? We're cruising at like just over 400 miles an hour. It's 360 knots is the max we'll do, right?
Right.
Or maybe just below 400 miles an hour. Depends on how, it depends.
So your true airspeed is less than 100 from 100 difference from a 737.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I would think it'd be much less.
Yeah, no, it's like the fastest turboprop. I mean, like an ATR is doing like in the 200s, like 270 or 280 or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, we do 300, we do 360. I wouldn't say we ever get 360 knots is like basically hugging the red line. I would say I typically see like 350.
350.
About 350, true.
Whoa. Yeah. And then with let's go with a 50 knot tail, so you're about 400 ground speed.
I've seen 450 before.
You've seen 450.
Yeah, 450 ground speed before. That's the highest I've seen. Yeah.
Whoa.
We had it wasn't a direct tailwind, it was 106 knots. But it's pretty close to direct. Yeah.
I love it.
I don't remember where we're going. I think we're going to Billings or something. The way back was painful. The way back with that headwind was brutal.
That's the thing about headwinds and tailwinds. It only pays off if you're overnighting.
I know.
Well, not even, because the next day you're flying the same thing back, but it only pays off on a one-way.
But sometimes it dies.
Sometimes it dies. That's true.
That's the best part about it. When it starts coming from the north instead of coming from the west,
it dies.
Yeah, that's sick. When it's a crosswind the next day and it's not a headwind, actually no. I want the time, so I guess it's a little different. But
you want headwind and headwind.
Yeah. Headwind and headwind. I'll take a headwind every single time. I'm cool with that. Block time or better, baby. I get my pay. But yeah. So it's if the air is only doing 470 miles an hour. I mean, with the physics and stuff, I'm sure it's a little faster than that. Sure. and your plane's doing 400, there's only so much room for it to accelerate anymore. You know what I mean? With a jet, it's coming out of the back of it's coming out of the back of the engine at like ridiculous speeds, and that's how it's able to go so fast, right?
It's insane.
So yeah,
apparently with a jet, I mean, the whole thing, if you look at the swept wing design, all of it is meant for high altitude, high speed flight. That's
all of it.
I mean, if you think about it, it's a jet is designed for the place it's in most of the time.
Yeah. Literally most of the time.
That's
by
literally
like a crazy percentage too.
Right.
Like it's up there for like 90% of its time, especially when you have wide bodies, probably 99%. You can just go take 99% of their time.
Yeah, because when they land, they turn around, different crew, and then you take back off and you fly from Sydney back to Los Angeles.
When, 15 out of the 16 hours is at cruise.
Whoa.
That's what they're made for. And that's why when you look at like a 737 or anything, right? The flaps are always, the flap systems, you look at that and you're like, Jesus, these are the most intricate flap systems. But it's because at the swept wing, you're losing a lot of lift at low speeds.
Yeah.
Losing a ton of lift at low speeds.
There was I was watching not a video of the plane, but it was like an ATC video where you hear the pilots.
Yeah.
I think it was like an American Airlines, and their flaps were like the flaps wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And so the pilot was telling the controller, hey, you're about to watch the fastest 737 landing you've ever seen.
I can see it.
And it's, that plane it needs all those flaps in order to like semi-land normally.
And don't even get me started on a 737. Even with flaps, has crazy high approach speeds.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's absolutely
overtakes
crazy.
Everything.
It's crazy.
It overtakes everything.
That thing is not meant for slow flight.
The problem is it's just so low to the ground. It can't. I mean, I don't get into it, but I mean, it's just like, okay, a couple of things, right? You can't fully load a 737 off of like a 7,000 foot runway. It's gonna have a hard time getting off the runway.
It needs a lot of distance
because when they rotate, because especially the 900,
the tail will touch.
Yeah, it'll have a tail strike. So like, let's say the Airbus, why the Airbus has that advantage, it can take a 321 that'll be longer than 900, carrying more passengers, and it'll take off out of a 7,000 foot runway fully loaded.
Right.
No problem, because it has more space to increase its angle of attack.
Ah, yeah.
That's it. So the 737 has to rotate at higher speeds, has to land at higher speeds too, because there's only so much distance they can give them to flare. Otherwise, the tail's touching.
Right.
And that's why they have such high speeds. At 737, I'm pretty sure approaches faster than the 777 does.
I believe you.
Yeah.
The 777 has a good clearance.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Relative, like, to its size.
Yeah. Even 767, same thing. It's all of them. It's just 737 that's the problem. That's the only one.
Whoa.
But anyway,
That's what happens when you try and keep, what is it, the same type rating from the 50s or...
Hopefully they're done.
60s.
Hopefully.
You think the Max is the last one?
I'm going to hope so.
I hope so. That's crazy.
If they come out with another one, that'd be pretty insane.
What plane do you want to fly? What's your favorite?
It's funny. I feel like when you're instructing, you have all these like dreams about all this stuff.
Right.
I don't even care, dude.
So at this point, you're like,
don't care.
You see, that's one thing that I asked you before. I said, what about? I was asking you. I actually asked you this exact question at lunch. I said, what about flying for the airlines is the same and different from what you thought it would be during instructing? So I guess this is one of the things that falls into the different. And
you think it matters, dude? A plane is a plane. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it already today, but you take off.
You just
no, sorry, I wasn't talking to you. I wasn't talking to you about it. No, it was after watching your episode with the 747 guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's talking about taxiing a 3-story building.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, he's right. Once you get in the air, there's not really much different.
And that's what he said. He said like his favorite part of that was taxiing.
Yeah.
Because that's where it's the most different.
That is the only time it's different, right? In that situation, or it's like, okay, this plane handles cool on the ground. Because as soon as you add power and you're rolling on the runway, a plane's a plane.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
You just sit there.
Yep.
And you see clouds. And that's the
same. The speeds all look the same.
Right.
All it's just all the same.
Right.
You're gonna get the same vectors. You're gonna get the same ILS. It's all the same.
Everything's the same.
Yeah.
Incredible. Okay, so you're at ATP.
Yeah.
You go through school. Most of it comes easy too. How'd you do with instrument?
Instrument's easy.
Easy.
Yeah, I loved it. When I was in private, I was talking about. I was like, I hear people that are on the RNAV. What is an RNAV? I want to do that. Loved it. Loved instrument. Passed that flying colors is good.
Easy.
I think
commercial's
fine too. I mean, CFI. Well, I guess I got my MEI first, but anyway, just staying focused in that was kind of rough.
What was your toughest track ride?
MEI.
MEI.
Yeah.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, that was my CFI initial.
Oh, you did your multi. That's right, because ATP haven't changed their thing yet.
Yeah.
So your initial CFI was the toughest?
Oh, for sure.
Did you have a brutal TPE?
No. I mean, it was all right. Like, the oral is fine. The flight, he makes you do, like, everything, though. You do everything.
Whoa.
And you are definitely the person. You come up with a plan. He goes, hey, I need these things taught to me. And then you take off, and then you go do that. You teach it to him. It's the first time you're PIC. You're deciding where you're going to go. If you end up 100 miles away from the airport, he's not going to say a single thing to you. You're just going to end up there. It's all you're planning. All you have to get there.
Whoa.
So you're doing it, and you're thinking, like, okay, typically a DP is like, okay, you're gonna go out on this heading, and then we're gonna do this, right? He's consciously telling you to do maneuvers in a way that'll keep you in the local area. This guy doesn't do that.
No, it's fully you.
Fully, yeah. So I actually, like, after all the maneuvers, I was 50 miles north of the airport.
Because you didn't.
That was
the first time you had to think about it.
The first time I think about it, yeah.
Whoa.
So it was tough truck ride, for sure.
Yeah. And that's, you know what, though? That's the biggest difference. I think that's the biggest adjustment for people transitioning from, you could take 20 private instrument commercial type check rides.
Yeah.
But then the first one where the tables flip and now you're the one talking and teaching, not just answering questions, is the CFI.
Yep.
And that's a transition that it takes many people a long time, is really becoming that person who, because up to that point, you're right, even in flight training, the instructor tells the student, hey, go here, go there.
You're logging PIC time, but you aren't the PIC.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
You're logging PIC, but the instructor's doing everything.
The instructor's doing literally everything.
Isn't flight training a fascinating thing?
It's interesting, man.
It's so different.
What you're logging is just for legalities. Like, you are not an actual PIC until the first time you step foot in the plane with a student and you realize that this student doesn't know anything.
I agree with you.
You are in charge of getting this plane safely back here on time too.
I agree. I agree with you fully. The only people ever who should be logging PIC are flight instructors.
Uh-huh.
Dude, I never thought of that. Whoa.
Yeah, man. They are a pilot and a half, right? I think about what I had to do as an instructor. You're watching someone make a mistake, right? You're watching them make a mistake, especially if you're doing instrument training.
Uh-huh.
You're watching them make a mistake, and you're just like, man, is this big enough for ATC to deviate me, or I'm just going to let it happen? You know what I mean?
Who was my instrument instructor? I can't remember.
Oh, boy. Who is your instrument instructor? Oh, well, that's how we know each other. Somehow, some way, y'all gets assigned to me.
Ladies and gentlemen. Dude, you were my instrument and commercial. My commercial instructor.
Yeah, I remember it, dude. It's like, I gotta say, like, you get your CFI, you don't know anything, and then you get a student like Yoel, and you're just like, oh, well, this is kind of dope. He knows everything, so I'm just gonna sit here and let him do his thing. He'll pass his check ride, and I'll take credit for it.
Dude,
Thank you.
So I appreciate him trying to make me look good, but
are you kidding me? You were giving me grounds. That's not a lie. You're sitting here like, yo, look. Be like, I'm watching. I'm like, dude, this is like the first flight we've had. And this guy's just full comms, everything. I'm like, what am I even here for?
Dude, no, but I actually, now that I've been an instructor for so long, and I know what it's like. Yeah, I have my own students. And you know how each instructor has different types of students?
Uh-huh.
What kind of student was Yoel? But forget knowledge side. Like, what was it like being Yoel's instructor? Talk to me the good, bad, and ugly. I'm really curious. Where did I make your job as instructor tougher? Where did I make it? Yeah, I really want to know.
Okay. So I would say, so we talked about knowledge. Like, you were really good on the knowledge. Actually, you were like ready for your check ride before you even started flying instrument, basically. No, I mean, there's practice flying stuff, but knowledge-wise, you would have passed the oral before you even started instrument.
Okay.
The one thing, I guess, actually, it's not really a you thing. It's more like I feel like students, everyone has their way. So it was frustrating for me. Here's a good way to explain it, right?
Yeah.
What was frustrating for me was that I would be like, hey, like, do something this way, and then you just want to do it some completely different way. And I'm just like, all right, whatever. Now, that was also had to do with the fact that I was a newer instructor.
Right.
I wasn't fully aware of the fact that there actually are, I mean, I know there's multiple ways of doing things, but I'm like, no, my way is the best way. This is the best way, whatever it is. And I learn things from people all the time, right? If someone does something, I'm like, oh, that's cool, right? Now, it's not like, I mean, things work for different people,
Right.
And you have to be okay with that. It might not be what you do, but it's like, hey, this works for my student and it gets the result that I want. So just let them do it. Right.
But I get that. I mean, heck, it's frustrating if you tell a student do this and they don't do it.
Yeah.
Or they do different.
I'm like, dude, I'm
with you. It's frustrating. I'm the instructor.
So the thing was too, right? You knew a lot of the knowledge stuff, and dude, I was so bad on knowledge, especially at that time. Oh my gosh! I mean, I know all the stuff now, right? I mean, I've eventually learned it as being an instructor, and I feel like new instructors, I mean, poor students.
There's no so basically what you're getting at. There's no shortcuts.
Yeah.
If you don't know, if you passed your CFI check ride by luck, there's no shortcuts with your students.
Yeah, there's none.
Right.
You're sitting here, and you're the person that's in charge. They're looking at you like, hey, you are the you're the higher being. You know what's going on.
Right.
Like, you know what's going on. You're going to make all the decisions.
Right.
Up until this point, you've got us back safely every single time. You made a decision that's got us back safely. Like, you're God.
Right.
You're awesome, right? You're the best pilot ever. Meanwhile, it's like, it's because they haven't stepped foot in a plane before. It's like, oh, well, this person can get us back. Wow, this person's dope.
Right.
And then you look back at it and you're like, and I'm looking back at when I was a lead instructor, like I think everyone developed into a good instructor that I had under me, but I do have to say that, like, you're just like, dude, this person sucks.
Whoa.
Like, you're not a good instructor. You didn't work hard enough. You didn't work hard enough in school.
Right.
But you know what? I don't have a problem with that because I was there once, right?
Right.
That's totally fine. But then I had you have a couple people that they don't try to get better.
They don't want to.
They don't try to get better.
Right.
They're here for their 1,500 hours and they're going to go to the airlines and they're just not going to care at all. And there are people like that. I don't understand, man. I look at it and I'm like, you went through the program. You would like somebody to be good, so why don't you do that? And what negative does it have for you? There is no negative. You would just become a better pilot, right? You put the time in. You don't just tell your students every 5 seconds, oh, a student asks you a question. No, you go ahead and look that up.
Yeah.
Not because I want you to look it up, but because I just don't know.
Right. Right. There's a balance. There's certain things that the student should look up, but you should also know your stuff.
Yeah. So for me, I always told students to look stuff up. And I'm talking about even later on. I would always tell them to look it up, right? I'd be like, okay. But it's always a conversation. It's like, okay, you don't know this. And I'm like, oh, you should know that though.
Right.
Right. I was like, there's stuff that you're studying and you should know that. So we'll start with number one. Where do you find that?
Right.
It starts with that. Where do you find that? And they're like, oh, I don't know. Is it here? I'm like, okay, well, I don't know. I'm looking for rules. And they're like, oh, it's in the aim. And I'm like, but the aim is just giving you information on stuff, right? I'm like, why would you find rules there?
Right.
Like, oh, is it a FAR? I'm like, okay, we're getting there now.
Right.
And it's like, okay, do you know where the instrument regs are going to be? I mean, I can't think of it at the top of my head, but I mean, when I was locked in and I was the lead there,
yeah, of course,
I was just pushing out regs. I'm like, oh, you don't understand alternates. It's 61 something. I don't know, or 91. I think it's 169 actually. I don't know, but I knew exactly the numbers of where they're gonna find it. So it's like, dude, I've read it 10 different times, right? And I'm not gonna. I want you to look. I'm not gonna tell you the answer. I'll tell you the reg to find it, and you're gonna go read it and figure it out.
Right.
Yeah.
You knew what you needed to know.
Yeah.
When you needed to know it.
Yeah.
And that's all you could ever ask from people.
Yeah.
Oh, and if you don't know where to look it up.
Yeah.
So back to just because you're the only person I could do this with. So you were my instructor.
Yeah.
So in terms of knowledge, I made your job easier.
Oh, for sure.
In terms of actual, and I remember this. I will never forget. Listen, here's Yol in a nutshell on instrument approaches. You ready for this?
Go for it.
Beginning of the approach. Here's Yol to his instructor on instrument approaches. I'll never forget this. Beginning of the approach, far out from the airport, I turned to you and I said, between here and we touchdown, you're shutting. Don't shut up. Don't talk.
Yep, you'd always do that.
That was me.
Be like, and then look over, how was that? And I'm like, and I could be like, yo, that was horrible. Like, that was just completely unstable. Like, no, it was good.
Yeah, and I told you.
I'm like, yo, I'm here to critique you. Right. You don't tell me that you did a good job, and I'm telling you didn't do a good job.
Dude,
yeah,
I will never forget that.
Actually, yeah, you're right. Now that you're saying that, it's reminding me.
Approach. I turned to you like well before the initial approach, and I said, from here to touchdown, you're not talking.
Yeah.
And then you sat there, and you know what, though? Here's the thing, and I realized this looking back. That's the kind of training environment I needed.
Yeah.
It worked for me.
Yeah.
It worked. I'm not saying it works for everyone.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it worked for me. Me making a bunch of mistakes and me kind of picking up on them. Here's the kind of person that I was. I'm not. Most people are probably not this way. I almost needed to kind of be my own instructor.
Yeah.
And just for legality purposes, I needed you in the plane.
I
needed you in the plane.
We had conversations like this.
Right.
It was like, yeah, like you're basically doing it all by yourself.
That's what.
But I'm just going to sign your logbook.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what works for me.
Yeah.
And honestly, I couldn't ask for a better instructor because most instructors wouldn't have it in them to be cool with that. And you were cool with that.
It's fine with it, man.
Yeah, you're cool with that. And that worked for me. I passed my check rides.
Yeah.
First time around.
Yeah.
I've know my stuff.
Yeah.
And it worked, but it was an unbelievable. Now that I'm an instructor too with many students, I know 99% of people are not that way. Like, not only that, you're their big crutch, which they need for every movement.
Yes.
And so I get it. I get how probably weird it was for you. But that, looking back, that was, and it could probably have been annoying too. From your perspective, because it's I tell you this way and you do it that way, and I get that.
But sometimes too, you critique yourself in a way that I'm like, bro, were you watching the same approach, or something like that?
I was completely disconnected.
Yeah. You were literally instructing yourself, but sometimes you were blind to some of the mistakes you're making, and I'm just like, look, I'm like, no, like it was not what you thought it was. It was completely different.
Right.
I mean, it wouldn't be. It usually wasn't. It wasn't anything like egregious. It never was. Right.
Right.
But it was just like, oh, well. It was like, I see you, I think you're a good student, and I'm like, this could be better.
Right.
This could be slightly better. I mean, it doesn't matter how much knowledge you had or how much more that you did studying instrument stuff with me. It's like, I've flown more instrument approaches than you ever have.
100%.
And it's just like, I know things that help me.
100%.
And it's like, if you're going to sit here and do your technique from something you read about or something you do somewhere else, it's like, dude.
And that's where Yoel was difficult to work with as a student.
100%. Yeah. That's where it was. It's like, dude, look.
Yeah.
We can talk. You can know 10 times more than I do in the book or whatever. But I'm saying, look, I know how to fly the plane.
I've done this,
and I know exactly how to keep the CDI.
100%.
An X or a T, whatever.
That is so interesting.
Yeah. But I mean, I've had a lot of difficult students for sure.
Difficult.
I've had a lot of difficult students. You're not even close to being one of them. That was actually.
But
difficult.
We had fun times.
Oh, we had a great time.
We had good long cross countries.
Yeah.
It was fun.
It
was just fun.
Yeah. It was. It was a good time. It was a really good time.
Dude, that's the cool thing about instructing. Like, I will have my instrument rating and my commercial certificate forever.
Yeah.
But I only had one instructor for those.
True.
And it'll be you. Like, you're it.
Yeah.
And even with my students, it's like, Yoel's the one who I got my private with, or I got my instrument with.
I know.
It's like,
I like to, I mean, I kind of got short with people as I got later on. I just didn't have the patience for stuff.
Dude, this is totally,
But you're just watching someone make a mistake, and you're like, how could you possibly be doing this right now?
Right.
I'm like, you have like 150 hours. What are you doing? Just sitting here, I'm just looking over. I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you joking? Like what? Like
there's no way you're this stupid.
That's
no, exactly what
that's been through my head like all the time. And then you have to think about it, slow down a little bit, and you're just like, okay, you know what? I was here at some point, right? And I'm like, these people have no PIC experience, and I'll get annoyed like when you get like because I did CFI Academy for a bit, right?
You were checking out new CFIs.
Yeah, right. And I'm like how hard is it to just go out to a practice area, do some maneuvers,
right,
and then come back?
Right.
Meanwhile, earlier in this conversation, I'm saying how I ended up 50 miles north or whatever, right? You got to remind yourself of where it used to be. I'm thinking of my first flights as an instructor, right? I'm like, I had a lesson plan written down for the flight, and I'm just like, dude, all right, I have this window with this plane. How the hell am I gonna get it back on time? I'm sitting here like, okay, I'm going to go out. I know this person needs to do takeoff and landings. I also don't know the area. I don't know how long it takes to get somewhere. So I'm also like, all right, I'm going to go on to Coolidge, do some pattern work or something like that. And I'm like, I realize you start getting an understanding of how long it takes to get back and XYZ. So then you come back, you're like, oh, this needs to be a 2-hour flight. And it's like, oh man, it's at like 1.3. We need to get back. I cannot be late.
Right.
And you come back and you're like, oh, that took 0.2 to get back. So then you're like, oh, now this student's flights are all short. And now I got to add an extra flight this week or something like that.
Right.
It ended up like that all the time. But I mean, it's crazy. The amount of flight plan, like the lack of understanding of like how to manage time and get a couple things done and then come back to the airport.
Totally.
Like, I mean, I don't think about it anymore.
Right. No, it becomes you develop a. I could attest to this. You develop a sixth sense.
Yeah.
As to you reach a point. I'm there right now because I'm active and you're not instructing these days. Yeah. But dude, I'm at a point where I don't even need to look at the headwinds or tailwinds, and I could be at an airport in the LA area.
Yeah.
And let's say I need to be back at the airport at a certain time. I know exactly when to leave, when to take off, when to this, in order for the chocks to be on and us to be done at this minute.
Yeah.
And it's incredible that you could develop that, because I'm with you. When I first started, and like you just described, you don't know anything. Like in terms of time. How long is this going to take me? How much time do we need to block off? How long will, and it's just, you know what? It's something that comes with time. It comes with doing it. It's like the Q400. Yeah. Like how long does it take me to typically, I don't know, reach my cruise altitude? How long does it take me to whatever? You know what I mean?
And it's like, and you don't have to pay attention either. You pass 10, you start talking about whatever, right? And then you're like leveling off and you're like, wow, that was faster than usual. And it's not even like I'm sitting here timing anything. It was like, oh, we did a pretty good job here.
Right.
You know, whatever it is. But I mean, okay, so we'll go, I'll go fast forward a little bit. Yeah. So, you were my third student.
I was your third student.
Yeah.
So how would you sum being, this is fascinating to me, because it's fun for me to ask these questions because I'm an instructor now. So, so how would you describe me as a student for you?
It was my break.
It was your break.
Yeah, dude. You wanted that kind of instruction? I was like, nice. I'll throw Yul in the third flight, and I can just sit here and chill, and I can relax my mind while he just does everything, and then I can go for a fourth flight.
So, dude, this is interesting for me to talk about, because I, too, every instructor has the students where before you go in with them, you go, okay, this is going to be a lot of energy expanded.
Yep.
And then other students, you go, this is just going to be fun.
This is going to be chill. So I'm going to chill out here.
That's how you thought about our flights.
Yeah.
Dude,
you were
that.
You were the chill one. It was like, dude, I had a,
that means a lot to me, because I love the students who I show up and I go, okay, this is just going to be 3 hours of fun.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, you're the break. It was like, yeah, it's hot. It's actually, you know what? It wasn't even just that too. Even the bigger addition to it, like, which actually completely unrelated to you, it was that I was like, thank God I could do instrument training, because sitting in the pattern when it's 120 degrees was the worst. I was like, at least we can go to like 10,000.
Right.
And we can actually get some cool air. I haven't felt cool air in forever, except for, whatever it is. So yeah, that was huge too. I was like, I can sit up here. I'm getting cross country time, which I need.
Right.
Yul is not going to get lost, and he's going to be just fine. He might ask a couple questions on the way, but nothing too much.
Right.
I'm not literally, telling. I'm not the puppet master telling you exactly how to manipulate the plane to do it.
Right.
Do what you want it to do.
Right. Yeah, I remember our flights to Yuma and stuff, dude. That was good.
Those are the best.
Dude, I love it. That means so much for me to hear that, because I totally know what you mean. There's the certain students that you're about to go to, and you go, okay, I could relax.
Yeah.
This is just my time.
Like, this is going to be a long day, but all I have to do is get through flights 1 and 2, and then flight 3 I can chill.
Yes.
Flight 3 doesn't even actually count. I'm just sitting in the plane. I'm along for the ride.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I love it. I don't think I've ever we ever talked about what it's like for
you
all to be
we
a
never
student.
did.
That's awesome.
We never
That's
did.
so incredible. Okay, so you instructed ATP.
Yeah.
You do that. Did you do your full? You did your full 1,500 at ATP.
I did more than that because of COVID.
You did more than that.
Yeah.
So you did 0 to hero ATP.
Yeah, 0 to hero. Yeah, man. A lot of people will talk badly about ATP. It happens, right? Every flight school has its flaws. I had an awesome experience.
Bad to say about ATP.
Like, I'm not even. I mean, I know you didn't. Some people say for instructing, they're like, oh, they get screwed in certain ways. I had an amazing experience, I have to say.
Dude, you're there for your hours. That's what you get.
Yeah,
you're not there to get rich.
But it wasn't even just that though. It was like the people I met. I thought they were so cool. If you're like willing to put in work. And people recognize that.
Right.
I mean, that's just the world in general, right? If you're willing to put work in, everyone recognizes that work that you're willing to put in. And they're like, whoa, this person has initiative. We're going to put them in some sort of position that actually they can, work to their full potential, right? So after I was doing CFI, then they said, okay, yeah, now we can't have like 30 people in a classroom together. When COVID first started, we didn't know anything about it. I was told, I was basically given an ultimatum. I can fight for students in Jacksonville, or they want to open a location in Orlando. Like, hey, I can open the location. I was like, that sounds like a sweet deal. I'm from Orlando. I just live with my mom. And it was cool. She's like, there's going to be 4 students there. There's going to be 2 starting the first week. And then the second week that you're there, another 2 will be starting. Or 2 weeks after that, another 2 will be starting. I'm like, that's perfect. They gave me a plane. I had 4 students. And literally, it was just me. It was just me and my 4 students. It was dope. It was completely awesome. I was loving it. Because, I mean, yeah, there's a title of lead. You're not gonna, but I don't have to do any administrative stuff. The only thing I did was I find DPEs and schedule my check rides. But like besides that, I wasn't managing other instructors. It was just me and a plane and 4 students.
You had 1 plane?
Yeah, 1 plane and 4 students. It was dope. It was just that's the starting location. But naturally, it's Florida, cool town.
Wow.
A lot of people started coming, right?
How many hours were you at when you did that, when you went there?
I think I had like 1,300.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you were
no, like 12 maybe.
So you were itching bad.
Yeah, and I knew it was going to be, I mean, I just had a friend, he had taken the TAA position, right, the autopilot position.
Right.
He cranked his hours. He quit ATP 3 days before the lockdown started.
Dude.
And then immediately his class date was canceled. He worked construction for about a year and change after that, yeah. It happens, man. I mean, some things are just blessings.
Timing.
But it's bad timing.
Whoa.
If he would have taken 3 more days to get his hours, he wouldn't have left. He would have realized that his class is getting canceled.
3 days.
3 days. Yeah, something like that. I knew it was less than a week for sure. Yeah, so I had 1,200 hours, and I was there for a year, and I had some busy periods though. You never hear this. I mean, Phoenix was a different animal. Most places you're struggling to get students and actually get enough hours. But in my situation, couldn't find. There was no housing there, so they couldn't find people willing to go there. So then I was in a situation.
Where'd you live?
I lived in Orlando, but I mean, I'm from Orlando, so it worked out for me. But other people who would just have to randomly get assigned. And remember, ATP, right? They give the guaranteed job to everybody. But that only works under the assumption that there's a large percentage of people who will take instructing jobs elsewhere, because you can't just have every student of yours become an instructor. Then everyone only has one student, right?
Right.
So when COVID happened, though, everyone's on the list. They can't get jobs anywhere else.
Right.
So everyone's like, oh, I have a guaranteed job here. I'm going to get on this list and I'm going to go here. So then it was a huge backup of whatever. Right. So then it turned into like, hey, there's one location that can take instructors right now.
Is Orlando.
And it's here. It's wherever, right? It can be at other locations too. But it's like, oh, it's here and we don't have housing for you there. So everyone's just like, it's like, you got a week to decide. And it's like, holy cow, I'm moving my whole life in a week because this is the only place I can go instruct right now. And that's what that was happening, right?
Right.
So but the problem was people were just not taking Orlando. We got to a point where I think people transferring in that were at other locations because they live closer to Orlando. Let's say some people from Daytona came over to Orlando because they actually lived closer to Orlando than Daytona. Stuff like that was happening, right? Or they had family in the area and then they moved to that location because now it exists. I think it was me and this girl, this other instructor. I think we had 13 students among us.
2 of you.
Yes.
Dude.
In the middle of summer. Dude, it would have been doable, barely legal, but doable if it didn't thunderstorm at 2 p.m. every day. Because we lost the second half of the day. Everyone was behind. I would get on these meetings, there's like lead meetings, whatever, and they talk about the statistics of all this stuff. Every time the manager that goes over and I'm talking like everyone, all the leads and all the the TSSs and stuff like that, they're all on this meeting listening to statistics and seeing how their training center did or whatever XYZ. Every time Orlando's mentioned, it was like we're always like way below the quota of what was supposed to be done because we just didn't have personnel to do it. Whoa. Well below the quota. And then he's always like, Orlando, he's like, numbers are going up, but we know what your situation is. There's nothing you guys can do. And so I would regularly get called out, not in a bad way, but like he knew my name because he knew this is the one training center that had the lowest numbers. We couldn't crank out enough flights because we didn't have instructors to do it.
Whoa.
Right? So like I'm every single week. It's like Andrew has his hands full with that situation, blah blah blah. Always by name.
Wow.
So it's cool. It's kind of cool in that situation, but you get known by people for all sorts of stuff. But I mean, and then eventually they started sending instructors in, and then that thing grew to over 30 students.
Wow, but you started it with
I started it, and I was and then I was in charge of that, and then I just dropped. Then it became a situation where we actually had too many instructors, and then I dropped all of my students, and all I did is evaluations. And honestly, that kept me busy too. Right. But when we had those students, the 13 students, whatever, I think I did 130 or 140 hours 2 months in a row, and that wasn't even like what the maximum was. If there wasn't thunderstorms, it would be more. It would have maxed out. I straight up would have had like over 200 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many hours do you go to the airlines with?
Okay, in my logbook at the time, like 1,800, but I honestly didn't even log like 150 of those, so I was close to 2,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you never thought that because you were sure that you were
at 1,500, at 1,465 or whatever the 75. Yeah, I would have been gone. Yeah, I thought so.
Because you get 25 in training.
Yeah. But meanwhile, I honestly thought I was gonna break 2,000 before I left.
Wow.
COVID. Yeah, man. And it's hard. It's hard, especially like we talked about it, right? You're getting paid for this and instructing. It gets old. Right, I've seen at this point, I'd basically seen every mistake made. right? I see somebody do something and it's like, I've seen this before. I've had 150 different people's logbooks that I've signed, right? Students wise, I mean, going through CFI, you see all sorts of stuff. I've had a bunch of students in general, like primary students as well. But you sign a bunch of logbooks, you see all these mistakes made over and over again. Even the weird ones I've seen before, you know what I mean? It's not like, I rarely was in a situation where it's like, I've never seen that before.
Wow.
Actually, that's untrue. Anyway, there's one student where I was bamboozled.
What happened?
She.
I was bamboozled.
No, literally, like
you bamboozle me.
I got to a point where I would give some ground lesson.
She's a student of yours.
Yeah.
Private?
Well, instrument.
Okay.
Well, I'm just saying in general, I would give these ground lessons, and after I'm done with them, I just like I like walk out of the room and I'm like, holy cow, that was sick. Like that was insane. I never in a million years did I ever think I'd be that creative at teaching whatever I just taught, right?
You felt good about how you did it.
Dude, it was I was like, this is transcending. I'm like, I have to teach it this way every single time. This is insane. This is so good. This is like the best thing possible. I've never seen this on YouTube. I am on another level right now, right? I would do stuff like that and I come out like, holy cow, I was sick. Nothing.
She got nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
She understood none of it.
Nothing.
Andy, you thought it was transcendent.
Yeah. I'm like looking at this. I'm like, wow, that was incredible. The level of detail I went into, how I broke it down, how I compared it to real world examples or whatever it is. Nothing. Yeah. But that was for a little bit.
She retained none of it.
None of it. I eventually figured it out, right? I figured out some stuff, whatever. And she studied so hard, dude. That's the problem. When someone doesn't get it and they study really, really hard, it's not even like you feel bad. You're just like, dude, you want it as bad as they do.
Right.
You want it for them as bad as they do, and you'll do anything you can to get them to where they need to get to. All right? When people put the amount of effort that you're putting in, and I mean, it's to the point where it's like, yo, this is way too much effort for me, but I'm looking at them and I'm like, man, you know what? They deserve it. I'm going to keep going.
Exactly to this point, here's what I tell all my students. We could never be in a situation where I want this more than you do.
Yeah.
But I promise you that you'll never want it bad enough to a point that I can't match.
Yeah.
That's what I tell them.
And that's what it was.
That's what I tell them.
That's the situation
I will meet you any place you show up with, at any point you show up with.
Yeah.
Show up at. But I could never be in a situation where I want this more than you. We can't. You need to want this.
Yeah.
And however bad you want it, that's how bad I want it. And I'll meet you there and I'll put in all the work. But I can't be the one pulling teeth.
Yeah.
We just can't have that situation.
She was never that student.
She was motivated.
Always motivated. I would give her something to read. I'd say, read this, read that. I've run out of ideas.
What do you think it was?
We figured out kind of. It was halfway through a flight. I mean, we were hours into instrument. I'm talking like we're probably over 100 deep.
Okay.
In instrument. Something had happened, and then I'm just sitting here thinking, I'm like, dude, what? I'm trying to understand how it's possible that it was like a short heading, right? She messes that up, and I'm like, there wasn't much going on. What could have possibly going on, dude? We both came to the conclusion that she's dyslexic, and that she's in her 30s, never been diagnosed with it, right? And then she's like, and then literally, and this is what I mean motivated, she's down to read anything. That night, before she even left the training center, she downloads an audiobook on dyslexia and is listening to it on the way home. And she's like, yeah. She's like, this is very accurate. This is the kind of problems I'm having. This is why I'm having trouble retaining stuff, X, Y, Z, all this stuff. Why I have to write down a heading, even though it's a simple heading, whatever, just stuff, just little things like that.
Whoa.
And then like all the stuff that I was like, oh, that's a bad habit. All of that, I was like, dump all of that. I was like, do it how you feel you got to do it. Because I'm like, we've been far enough where you can kind of understand and have a feeling of how you need to get things done. I'm like, you do it. I'm not going to sit here and be like, you need to be better and then do it this way. Whoa. I'm going to be like, yo, if this is what you need because of some sort of, if it's it is a learning disability. It is. I mean, it's an impediment. That's what it is, right? If you need to do a certain thing to get there, then you're going to go do it. And I will encourage you 100%. And then literally it went from like nothing was sinking in to like 4 flights later, she's ready for a check ride.
Whoa.
Yep. And she passed it.
Dude.
But if I had known that for so long, I would have been way more efficient. But I mean, I'd never seen if she knew it.
She didn't know it.
She didn't know it. She's in her 30s.
If she showed up day one
or
and
late
said,
20s. Yeah.
if she showed up, forget telling you, she would study differently.
Yep, I know.
She didn't know it.
Didn't know it. Never went. Yeah. So
wow,
that was for sure the toughest one. Is actually my last student.
Wow.
My very last student was the hardest one I ever had.
You know what? That really brings home how being a teacher in general.
Yeah.
There's so much to it.
Oh, there really is.
I mean, every person you teach is a world of everyone's different.
Yeah.
Everyone deals with their own. Everyone have their strengths, their weaknesses. Heck, you dealt with someone who she didn't even know, she wasn't aware of it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I wanted it just as bad as she did, but I just could not. I was like,
I know exactly how tough that is.
Like you're saying that you'll always match your students. You'll get a student where you will reach your breaking point, and I was almost there.
Wow. I'm with you.
It literally seemed impossible, dude.
Right.
Nothing I could say, nothing I can do, no techniques I'd give. And like I said, I'd seen I mean, I'm not saying I've seen everything, right? But I'm saying I've seen a lot of stuff.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, try this way, try that way, try this way. I'll give you 15 different ways, and not a single one of them worked. And I'm like, holy cow, I am actually out of ideas. I didn't think I'd be here anymore. I used to, the people that could not train their students, right? Because their newer instructors would send them to me, and I fixed them in like 2 flights.
Whoa.
But I was at my breaking point. I was like, dude, I'm out of ideas.
Because you're motivated to help her because she's motivated.
Yeah, and also like it's also a challenge for me as well, right? It's almost like everyone's aware there. At least, I mean, it makes sense, right? I'm the lead. I have there was a point there where we had like 6 instructors. I had more hours than all of them combined. Right at the time, right?
They were all new.
So like everyone looks at me like, hey, this is like they'll come to me, and everyone felt comfortable just saying, hey man, my students having trouble with this. I am out of ideas for whatever, and I'm like, oh, do this or do that. They knew that I had basically every technique out there. Some of them actually, some of the instructors that were there were prior students of mine.
Wow.
Right? Actually, the guy who took over for me, it's funny. The way we met, I literally flew like half an hour with him right before his check ride. He had like a refresher or whatever, and I remember. It was preparing him for a very specific DPE, and he's like asking me questions, and I'm just like looking at him like I would just say things in the worst way possible. I'll just look over and I'm just like, do you not like taxi with wind correction? Like, you want to be an instructor and you can't even do that?
Right,
I'm like, it's just something as simple as I'm just saying that. He's like, okay, yeah, he puts it in, right? He's taxing. He's like, hey, on the run up. Like, I was just looking at this, or like, how does this work? He's talking about squelch, like the sensitivity or whatever. How does this work? And I'm like, you're going to teach someone in this plane and you can't even tell me what these switches do? Are you incompetent? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, and this guy's never flown with me before. He's like, what is wrong with this guy? He's a complete.
Like, intimidating.
Yeah, the worst. Take off. And then he does something. And I'm like, this is so pathetic. Like, you're like, whatever, right? And he's like, and he's finally snaps. Like, dude, what's your problem? I'm like, dude, I'm just telling you, the DP that you're flying with, that's exactly how he
does it.
That's how he does it. I'm like, I'm not actually that way, whatever it is. But that's funny. So like, we always share that. Like, he took over for me, and eventually I didn't, it wasn't. I mean, it was just one of the students I had a bunch of students going through CFI because there's so many people that come by every 2 weeks or whatever.
Right.
But like, it was funny that the experience I had with him, that's how we met, and then now like he took over and is in charge or whatever. But yeah, I mean, everyone would come to me. He'd call me even after I'd left. He'd call me all the time. He's like, "Yo, you need to keep your phone on ring for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I don't know how to do this stuff. Like, how'd you do? He's like, how'd you deal with this? How'd you schedule check rides? How'd you force people? X, Y, Z, and worked out. It was cool. But I mean, yeah, everyone would come to me for help for everything. There were so many mistakes being made, especially instrument. DPs would always give me their notes and stuff like that. And then I'd read and I'd be like, all right, I see these problems with a lot of people. I mean, I guess I'd usually know beforehand.
Right.
But I had Wednesday grounds. My instructors had to come to a ground, and I gave a ground to my instructors on every Wednesday.
Look at that.
Yeah. To cover the stuff that I keep saying mistakes of. And I'm like, it's not just the students, dude. When it's the same instructor and then the students come and it's all the same issues, it's an instructor problem. You're teaching it wrong,
right.
And I'm going to cover why, and this is how you teach this.
What'd you see a problem with mostly? What was a big area?
IFR rules are really difficult, man.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of this stuff that gets really far in depth, and like the one, man, I don't remember, dude. It was a while ago.
Just different stuff that the instructors.
Oh, you know what? My baby. Short field and soft field landings.
Okay, so not instrument.
Yeah, never mind. Yeah, instrument had its challenges, but short field, soft field landings, and emergency procedures.
So people taught short field wrong?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
They don't understand. They don't understand the concepts of what goes into a short field landing, right?
Not takeoff, landing.
The problem is, right? I always start this explanation with there's two ways to increase lift. Okay. Number one is increasing airspeed. And number two is increasing angle of attack.
Right.
Now, obviously to a certain point, right? But that's the most very basic way you can think about it, right? Okay. So, we're not perfect. The only thing we can really control well, right? Multitasking, we're very bad at multitasking. The only thing that human beings can control well is one variable. So we need to take one of the variables out. And in this situation, it's airspeed.
Okay.
Screw the airspeed. We just handle the angle of attack the whole time, right? We make sure that we keep a high angle of attack very close to stall so that when we get to the runway, it just comes down and we're landing on the runway. Right. We don't have any more lift to get rid of because we were at the maximum. This plane was just barely flying at this point, right?
And I don't care what number that angle of attack produces on my PFD.
You can feel it.
Right, but it's irrelevant to me.
Yeah.
As long as I'm hanging out right under my critical angle of attack, okay?
Yep. That's basically right. That was the big part of it.
Right.
Dude, I didn't even care if I'm hearing stall horn on the way down, as long as we're not actually close to the buffet, I'm cool with it, right? You're coming down nice and slow.
Right.
They had people coming in like hot. Like, all right, cut the power, and now you're floating down here. I'm like, this is not precision at all.
Right.
I'm like, you don't fly. I'm like, on this short field landing, you are going to fly and land on your aiming point.
Right.
You're not going to go to your aiming point and then flare and then come down or whatever. You're going to fly straight to it. Right. And some people are like, oh, the 50-foot obstacle. I'm going to go down, level off, and go. I'm like, no, you're going to keep the same flight path over that obstacle the entire way down.
And your approach path will be steeper.
Yes.
Right. 100%. And this is where I talk about, and this is to what you're saying. So there's an aiming point and there's a touchdown point.
Yeah.
The $1 million question is, okay, what's the distance between the two? And the answer to that is the energy you show up with.
Yep.
So the more energy I show up with, the greater the distance between my aiming and touchdown.
Yeah.
The less energy I show up with, the smaller the distance. If I really show up with no excess energy, my aiming point pretty much becomes my touchdown point.
That's how it works.
Just like you just said.
And that's what a short. Yeah, and it was just stuff like that. Emergency procedures.
Yeah.
I mean, you have an engine out, you treat it like a pattern, okay?
Yeah.
Stop telling people to like go straight ahead or whatever. I'll ask them, I'm like, okay, guys, if you're teaching it this way, you tell me when on anything other than an instrument approach that you've ever been at like 3,000, 4,000 feet on a final. I'm like, never. Right. It never happened. You always came from a downwind or a base or whatever it is, and you started a pattern.
Right.
So I'm like, so then you're going to set this up like a pattern. You're going to fly it like a pattern because the only thing you know how to do is fly a pattern. You don't know how to do a 4,000-foot final and gauge how much energy you have.
Right.
All you know is to look at the runway, and you're like, oh, I'm at 1,000 feet. All right, this is my turn for base. If I'm going to be idle, this is my turn for final, and I'm going to land.
Right.
Stop trying to make it all this extra stuff. Students train to do a pattern, and they spend a lot of time in the pattern, then
stick with it.
Do exactly what they're good at, flying a pattern, right? That was important too. But anyway.
Interesting.
All right, so I finished up, and then whatever the airline that I'm at now.
I won't be an airline pilot.
Yeah, that's what I won't
fly all these people on their vacation from Yakima
to
Portland. And then from Portland, I won't go to Spokane. And then from Spokane, I could fly to Santa Barbara. And then Santa Barbara, I could fly to Los Angeles.
You could do all that.
And I could then fly all the way up to Seattle because we have the range.
You know, it's funny too, right? I mean, I'm doing these small hops, and they are short, right?
Dude, did I say it's good to see you?
Yeah.
Already? I
love it, man.
How long has it been?
It's, I think it's been 3.5 years.
Dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like we left off yesterday.
Honestly.
Isn't that unbelievable?
Yeah. It's crazy.
What were you saying? You had what? You started saying something.
No, I have, I use Log 10 Pro, right?
Log 10 Pro?
Yeah, it's a log book, and it's super dope. I can say
electronic.
I can't say anything but good things about it. But it's still funny, right? I have like way longer flights. Obviously, I mean, my flights, I'm flying at a regional. I'm flying the Q400. We don't go very far to begin with. Way longer flights, but I still look at the distances of the flights that I'm doing up here because they have a little map thing and it shows like the dots and like where it's going to, whatever.
Right.
The distances are still drastically longer than what I was doing as an instructor. Mm-hmm. Even though the flights are shorter, it's just drastically longer. You look at the lines. Yeah. So you look at my little web in Phoenix. You look at my little web in Florida, and you look at my little web out of the Pacific Northwest, and the Pacific Northwest is actually more spread out than any of the instructing. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I look at some. Okay, so I was looking at the map where we did. Did we stop in Yuma or did we go straight from Phoenix to Carlsbad? I don't remember. I think we went straight back, but I think we stopped in Yuma the way there. Oh, because we had to do the freaking 3 takeoffs and landings and the different. Yeah,
I will never forget my first ever actual ILS instrument approach.
Yeah,
was into Carlsbad.
Dude. Not only
that, but it was probably dude, that layer the tops were 8. We were in it for thousands of feet. We broke down.
So I actually regularly talk about that. I talk about that to people all the time. We talk about instrument, that specific flight. I talk about it all the time. I'm like, dude,
we were in it for
we were in the soup, dude. And I mean, no brakes.
No brakes.
And so I'm sitting here like, dude. And you take for granted, right? There's like an instrument, huge emphasis on instrument.
Right.
It's flying the approach, right?
Right.
But like you take for granted, like, oh, descend 1,000 feet. So you're descending 1,000. You're sending down 1,000 feet. You're going from 5 to 4,000.
Right.
When you get to 4,000, now you have to use your instruments to level off.
Right.
And then you get the power right. And then you do all this other stuff. It's like, dude, flying an ILS or flying an RNAV or whatever is the easiest part of instrument. I was like, dude, literally just maintaining level flight and keeping your altitude and then just like, or actually, no, it never was that. Level flight's easy too. It was the gauging a descent in the reality of things.
Yeah.
You're flying through this cloud, right? You got the vents open. You're getting cloud juice on you. I mean, it's not really wet, but I mean, it's, you're doing your descent and then you level off and you add the power back in again. It's like, this would be a lot easier if it was just not IMC, right? Okay, right turn to blah blah blah, left turn this, and then you get the turn. You get the turn to intercept final, or intercept the localizer or whatever, right? Like even that, just straight or level turns,
right? Level
turns and hard IMC. Even that, you're like, geez, man.
It's weird.
You look at the ADSB, and there's just a line of planes going to Palomar. And then they say, keep your speed up. There's a Falcon. There's a Falcon behind us.
There's jets in there, the whole thing.
It's a Falcon behind us. Yeah. Keep your speed up. And I'm thinking, man, you take that for granted, but I'm keeping my speed up in instrument. I got other things to scan now. I got way more stuff to scan other than jam the power and just look outside.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking at my instruments, and I have to make this work well. Yeah. I'm gonna do this approach a little bit faster. I'm gonna drop the flaps a little bit later.
Yeah.
It was dope.
Dude, I'll never forget it. It was a long time in the soup, and we broke out, and there was the runway. And I'm sure everyone had this experience at some point in instrument. Hopefully, at some point, people get actual somewhere. But I will never forget that flight. It was amazing. Yeah. That really brought home just the power of instrument flying in the clouds.
It's important.
It's crazy. It's
important.
Different.
Yeah.
You pop out, and I'll never forget. I popped out, and there's the runway, and I'm like, whoa.
Yep.
Like it felt like 10 minutes that I couldn't see outside.
It was longer than that.
It's longer than that.
100% was longer than that.
Dude.
I think we were in IMC for at least 25 minutes.
It was crazy.
I think we were in IMC for that long.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
And then we popped down. There's the runway. And I'm like, okay, I'm a believer in this thing. Now I believe in it.
You get that experience. You're like, wow, this is dope.
It works.
But then, okay, so everybody needs an experience like that. It is very important because if you're the student who is cheating under the foggles,
yes,
you get your instrument rating.
You can't cheat that.
You cannot cheat that. And I've had students that I've seen experiences like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, let's take them somewhere. It's 400 overcast. Let's see you do S turns on a localizer.
You can't exactly. You can't pop out of the
Be like, okay, and then take them somewhere clear right after that, and then watch them cheat again.
Whoa.
And then have a conversation about. You understand that with the license that you're going to get in your check ride a week from now,
there's
right?
no shortcuts.
I'm like, you're going to get the license because the DP was really easy, but that's another story. You're going to get the license. Let's say you wanted to get breakfast at this airport we just went to with your mom, right? Are you going to go kill you and your mom? Are you going to take that license to go kill yourself? Is that what you're going to do? Because in this specific flight, you were doing S-turns and you were having a very hard time keeping the plane straight in the clouds. But then the very next approach, you're going to cheat out of your foggles because you can cheat. And you just witnessed what happens when you're actually in IMC and how important it is to actually understand your instrument scan. I'm like, how could you 20 minutes later make a decision to cheat some more? I just don't get it.
Yeah. That's the thing. There's really, when it comes to flight training, there's no shortcuts.
There's no reason to have
shortcuts. Who are you kidding? You just, if anyone, you're kidding yourself.
Yeah.
You're kidding yourself.
Yeah.
There's no shortcuts. So what? So you looked out of the foggles? Heck, don't wear the foggles. And then you'll be an actual someday. You won't be able to handle it. There's really no shortcuts.
Yep.
There's really no shortcuts. That's crazy. So, okay, so let's talk about, so you are a regional airline pilot.
I am.
You talked about this a second ago. You were saying that the distances are drastically greater.
Yeah.
Although the flight time might be shorter.
Yeah.
I talked to many pilots, and one of the biggest transitions that they had to go through is the transition from flying in reference to distance to now flying in reference to time. Where did that line, what was it like starting to think of, okay, we're 30 minutes out rather than 20 miles out? Talk to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess now I think about it, it's all about time.
It's all about time.
Yeah, I mean, I start looking to do stuff. I see like, or 20 minutes or 15. Not even. Sometimes that's like, man, the conversation is too good, right? It's 5 minutes to top of the set, and it's like, man, we should probably get some stuff done. All right, I'm gonna grab the weather real quick. Yeah. You know, like whatever, it happens, right? But I mean, you still get all the stuff done. You always do.
Right.
But yeah, it's an interesting transition. I don't even know the distance. Actually, yeah, I don't even know the distances between anywhere I fly.
Nothing. It's all about time.
Couldn't tell you. Yeah.
But in the Cessna 172, okay, I'll make my call out 15 out or 10 out, or I'm 50 miles out. And at some point, there's that transition. You cross over.
The thing is, I think the reason why you go to time is because the speeds you're doing are so drastically different. And I'm not saying different between like a Cessna and the Q400 what I fly, right? I'm talking about the differences of speeds the Q400 will do.
Right.
Is so broad that the miles don't mean anything, right? Okay, so if I'm doing 350 knots true at cruise, and I'm really light and I'm doing 110 knots on final, right? It's a pretty big difference. So like, I don't know. I mean, sometimes when I'm making like CTEF calls, I'll toss. I actually know I always do. I usually toss in a time. I'll be like, you're on comm 2 and this is insane. You're talking about the distances and stuff like that. I'm making a call that I'm 40 miles out. I'm making a call that I'm 40 miles out.
But you're 8 minutes out.
Yeah, right. But I'm letting them know. I'm like, hey, yeah, whatever. Or I'll add a time in there. Like we're 40 miles out, coming through 18,000.
Whoa.
Like,
so you're
we'll be joining a 10-mile final. But like, you don't even have to say the times.
Yeah.
It's just that I'm sure that whoever's on frequency is like, holy crap, right? They're sitting here thinking like, oh my goodness, I made a 40-mile call, like 2 minutes later I made a 30-mile call, like, oh my god, this guy is gonna be here in no time,
So you're telling me that you make your initial call right as you leave Class Apple?
Oh, get out of here, dude! I've made calls. I made calls at like in Class Apple. Yeah, Class Apple. Yeah, dude. You hop over, like you turn the lights on, you look, and dude, I hate being that guy sometimes. If someone's doing like night pattern work or something, and you crank it up to max, and they're probably on a short final, and they can't see anything. But we're so far away, we don't even know. We're just turning it on so we can see it. We don't know if it's on or not.
Right.
But yeah, so like it's interesting.
Time and distance.
Yeah,
it's a crossover.
And then we're doing all these approaches that no one can do, the RNPs.
In the Q400.
Yeah.
30 minutes out. Is that like, okay, we're buttoning things up? What's the time? 20 minutes?
Like 20, yeah.
20 minutes out.
No. 30 minutes out. We'll start getting stuff ready. We'll do the descent checklist before we even start a descent.
Got
it. Because, I mean, what's required on there? Dude, I've been flying enough. We have to make sure the pressurization set, which should have been set on the ground. Ground procs. We're making sure it's set for the flap setting that we're going to land with.
Got it.
I don't remember, like a briefing or FMS is set, whatever it is. There's not much that needs to be done for the descent checklist.
Got it.
Approach checklist we'll do at 10,000 feet though.
Love it.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, you basically, like all you have to do is you get the weather, you get your landing numbers.
That's it.
Oh, but yeah, you get your weather, landing numbers, right? And set up some VNAV solution maybe if it's necessary. And obviously get a briefing done, whatever it is. Sure, but that's for the most part, that's all that needs to be done.
Do you guys ask each other if there's any threats?
Yeah, that's what we have to do.
Do you have any threats for me? Any threats?
Yeah, I mean, typically the thing is, it's good. I think the
threats is good.
Threat-based briefings are good in general.
Gets you thinking.
But also, like, there's like some things that are just obvious too, right? Okay, if it's like clear, calm winds, whatever it is, it's like sometimes you're forcing yourself to come up with threats.
Right.
It's like, I don't know. Be like, I'll make a joke sometimes. I'll be like, oh, yeah, you have any threats? And I'd be like, yeah, man, it's gorgeous weather, we might get caught looking outside or something like that. We don't want to be doing that.
Is it a sin though to say no threats?
No, that's not. You can say that. But sometimes you're like, oh, is there anything really? It's like, no, I don't really have anything.
Is that though looked at as like, come on, come up with something? You know what I mean?
No.
Is that looked at as lazy? I'm being lazy. It's not.
No, most people, especially the further you get into the trip, because one threat could be like, hey, I haven't flown with you before. We don't know how our styles combine with each other.
Fair.
So that's usually, that can be a threat towards the beginning of the trip. Right. But now it's day 3. You guys know you mesh well together and you guys actually get everything done. It's like, yeah, I don't really see any threats. Be like, yeah, the weather might be bad in, I don't know, Portland. Like the last flight, right? The weather might be windy or whatever in Portland, but that's not part of our initial briefing because we don't care about that yet. Right. We will make another threat press briefing on the way, right? And that's going to cover landing stuff. It's just on takeoff. Do you see anything? Nope. Weather is good. Maybe some turbulence on the climb out. We're already briefed flight attendants. It's usually like that. It's usually the same stuff every time. You always think when you're climbing out, you're going to have some sort of bumps, especially if you're going through some weather. So then it just turns into, yeah, we already briefed the flight attendants, so it's not like bumps are having any effect on how we fly. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Right? Maybe we'll fly a little slower so we don't, overspeed flaps or something like that, but I'm not too concerned. Oh, it's gusty. If there's no weather, then there's not really much of a threat. Some people do like toss things out and it's eminently necessary, but sometimes there's some airports you fly into, some of the deltas, ton of pattern work and stuff going on. GA traffic, man. And then, like I said, the speed. There's like a Seminole on a 5-mile final, and we're like 20 miles out, and they had to send them around because we caught up to him in 2 seconds, right? We're doing 230 knots. And I'm sure that guy's like, probably configured or whatever, doing like 88 knots, right? That we're gonna catch that guy so fast, and Crazy. They had to turn him off and bring him back around, and then we're just verifying that, hey, this guy's actually off final, right? Because we don't have that much time to react if that happens.
How long did it take you after starting? So you're done with how long is training at the regional airline you're at?
Mine is pretty long. I mean,
why? Because you need some extra time.
Get out of here.
Did Andy need extra time?
It's a tough plane to fly, man.
Oh, you mean specifically the Q400 is longer than the typical?
I think so. Yeah, I know people that are talking about their IOE was like 2 trips.
Whoa.
My IOE was like the whole month.
Specifically because it's a Q.
Yeah. Maybe that's everywhere. I mean, it's a good training program. I gotta say that, but yeah, mine was the whole month, and even by the end of the month, dude, I was still like struggling to figure out how to put the plane down softly. It's like landing a shopping cart, dude.
What about that plane is so hard to fly?
Okay, so I mean, there's a couple things. A lot of gotchas. The plane is just put together. It's thrown together. Okay, well, I guess now they're fine, but it's like a less dangerous version of a Max. It was the original dash, baby dash, we call it. The 100, I probably sat like 30 people.
Okay.
Then the 300, I think, got way bigger and maybe sat like 40 people, 45 people.
Okay.
Then it went from that to this plane can seat 76.
Same design.
Yeah, longer though.
Wow.
A lot longer.
Okay.
And they wanted to keep the common type. Now, mind you, there was a lot better technology out about turboprops, but a lot of stuff we have in that cockpit is just to make sure that people that are typed on the previous versions can still fly this one. But, it's crazy when the airline got these new planes, right? And they had the mix of the two of them. They realized very quickly there's guys that fly the Q and there's guys that fly the 200s or whatever, right? They realized very quickly.
Huh.
They're like, the 400 has so much more power. It is so much faster. It is just so much different to fly. It has hydraulics instead of cables now. Like, they're like, yo, this is not
different.
Yeah. Now, obviously, the FAA doesn't think so, right? Same type rating and stuff like that. But they're like, yo, yeah, there's the Q guys and there's the 200 guys.
Whoa, it's that different.
It's just so much faster. The 200 was doing like, I don't know, probably like 270, 280 true. You're adding an extra 80 knots, dude. Yeah. 70 knots.
Wow.
And then on top of that, just the sheer power. So, I mean, okay, so...
Yeah, so give me examples of how is it more difficult?
We'll talk about the gotchas here, right? Okay, we got the button, the out select button, okay?
And for those who don't know, it's the MCP altitude select button. So the autopilot, you select it and it should hold your altitude.
Correct.
Okay.
No. No.
So this is not the autopilot.
This is autopilot, but okay. So let's just think. Okay, so when you're on a Cirrus, right? And you want to climb. Okay, you bug your altitude, and then you give it a way to get there, right?
Oh, so you don't mean the altitude hold button. You mean the altitude select, the knob that you rotate your altitude.
No. I'll explain it in a second because it's like I'm saying this is unlike any plane.
Okay.
Okay. So for you, right, you're in a Cirrus.
I raise the ceiling, and then I tell it how to get there.
Okay, so if you want to climb flight level change, right, you can climb at the speed. Sure. Cool. Then your plane, so you were going from 3,000 to 4,000. You just turn the bug to 4,000. You go to flight level change, you climb at 100 knots. I don't know, whatever you climb at. And then it gets to 4,000 levels off, right? All right, now let's put the example for the Q. I go and they say climb to maintain 8,000. I'm at 4,000 feet or whatever. I'm at 5,000 feet. Actually, it doesn't really matter what altitude, right? I turn the knob to 8,000. I hit IAS I'm gonna go climb at a speed. I set it for 200 knots. I get to 7,800, 8,000, 8,500. Blows through the bug.
It doesn't level off?
Why doesn't it level off? Because we have to push a button that tells it, hey, the altitude I just put in there, I want you to level off at it.
Then why move the altitude to begin with?
Dude, that's what I was saying. No one understands that. This plane is full of gotchas like that where you're just like, why? Like,
so if you wouldn't raise the ceiling and you just did IAS 200, it wouldn't go because you didn't tell it where to. But you need to raise the ceiling. Where would it go to?
Just start climbing.
It would just maintain 200 and all the excess thrust would turn into a climb.
Oh, wait. No, sorry. Yeah, no, it wouldn't.
So you have to raise the thing.
I have to raise the ceiling? Yeah.
So you have to raise the ceiling.
Yeah.
But it's not really a ceiling because it busts through it.
Yes.
Dude,
unless you press a second button to tell it, hey, stop at the ceiling, please.
Yeah, that's a big gotcha.
So it's like, okay, so you know how when you turn the bug, it'll automatically pop up. Okay, so then you're climbing. You're in VS mode and alt is armed. Right, because the out capture is gonna be armed at the bottom there.
Right.
I don't know if it shows that. I don't remember. But yeah, for us.
Do you guys ever climb in VS?
Our book, we're not supposed to climb in VS. Our book does say though you can climb in VS till like if you're trying to set a pitch, we climb in pitch hold.
Pitch hold, so not flight level change and nor VS.
Our flight level change is horrible. Like it'll literally just pitch aggressively to maintain.
So pitch, what's the difference between pitch hold and VS? Vertical speed is a pitch, no?
Vertical speed's okay. So if my plane can only do 1,000 feet per minute, and I'm commanding 1,500 feet per minute, it'll keep pitching up till it stalls. Now, if I do...
Wait, say that one more time?
Okay, so let's say my plane, based on the conditions, can only climb 1,000 feet per minute.
What do you mean, before it what?
Before
my speed will bleed off.
Bleed off, and then I'll stall.
Oh, so you mean it could go to 1,000 while maintaining my climb speed?
Sure.
Okay.
But I have it set at 1,500.
So
now
I'll
this thing's
get
slowing. And the plane naturally, right, thinks, I pitch up to go climb faster. It's going to keep pitching up, right?
Right, which is why you don't want to climb with VS.
Correct. Right?
So what's pitch hold?
It just flies a pitch. I fly 5 degrees nose up and I climb that way the whole time. The plane will never stall.
But it also would never stall if you kept it at 1,000 feet a minute and didn't go to 15.
Yeah, but that's changing. When I'm lower, I can climb faster, so why even bother? If I set the pitch at 5 degrees.
As you get higher, you still will lose airspeed.
Okay.
So what's the difference in that?
But there's no possible way that with a 5 degree nose up attitude, the plane will stall. It'll just level off. Like it'll get to the point where it can't climb anymore, and then it just levels off.
So the difference in VS is a
would
given.
Keep pitching up. If I'm
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Wait. Okay. Got it. So VS to maintain 500 feet a minute at 10,000 feet as opposed to 1,000 feet, 500 feet a minute, I'd have to be at a higher pitch attitude. But
that's how autopilot works. The flight director is going to keep commanding the nose to go higher and higher.
Right. But in your case, you just want to give it a given pitch. So the higher up you go, that same pitch will result in a lower vertical speed per minute.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So lower altitude, it's way higher, and then as you get higher and higher, it gets lower and lower.
So your climb rate decreases per the given pitch as you gain altitude.
Correct.
And that's why
it's
safer.
And then soon it'll reach zero.
Got it.
But we know critical angles of attack are never going to be anything like 5 degrees nose up. That's it. It'll never get slow enough. It'll just stop climbing.
Right. So the way you enter into that is you initiate manually the climb, and then you hit a button, and it basically locks that pitch in.
No. So you actually have to. It's our default mode. So it's our basic mode. So if I press IAS twice, like indicated airspeed twice, it'll go to pitch hold. If I press VS twice, it'll go to pitch hold.
I gotcha. Okay.
So anything you press twice, it'll just go to pitch hold, and then that's what we climb in.
But I love that. That's a nice option. So you have different ways to fly the airplane.
Yeah. I do sometimes climb in IAS. I do. But it has to be a smooth day. If it's bumpy, dude, this thing is just chasing it. Like it'll just pitch down aggressively to pitch up aggressively. Some planes do that with a localizer. S-turns, but you're doing S-turns on the vertical. Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
That thing will put you 0 Gs.
So from a CRM standpoint, just I'm curious, like as far as flying with two people now, you're in a flight deck. Let's say it's someone you haven't flown with before.
Okay.
Where does the type of mode you want to climb in, where does that come into play? Like, could you essentially climb in any mode, but you might get some comments from the pilot you're flying with, or some pilots are cool, some pilots don't care. Like, where does that fall? Is there something you should, like if you said, you know what, I want to climb in VS right now. Why? Because I feel like it. Will someone tell you something? Or is that like down to you?
No, our book says we cannot climb in VS.
So basically everything's by the book.
Everything's by the book.
So every single one of those modes has their place in time.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Kind of.
I got it. And you guys descend in VS.
Descend in VS. Descend in VS, mostly VNAV though.
VNAV?
Yeah, most of the time we descend in VNAV.
How do you descend in VNAV unless you have a point that you need to reach at a given altitude?
We're always on stars.
You're always on stars. Yeah. That's right. But if you're just told descend 1,000 feet, VS. If you're
Correct.
Flying and
if we're taking vectors to a localizer or whatever it is, vectors to an approach.
VS.
Yeah, we're in VS. But for the most part, you'll get from cruise down to like 6,000, 5,000 feet on a star. It's all on the.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Accept, maintain, descend via the star.
Yeah.
Descend via this. Accept, maintain 15,000.
Yeah, it's actually different in Canada though. Canada's weird.
Really?
Yeah.
How long did it take you to learn how to fly to Vancouver? You guys fly?
We do Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, Victoria.
Is it much different?
When you file for a star, you're basically. Okay, so if I'm on a star and the bottom, I'm going from Yole to Andrew, right? And at Yole it was 10,000 feet. At Andrew it's 8,000 feet. As soon as I cross Yole, the Canadian controller's gonna be like descend 8,000, right?
That's creepy.
They're just literally like they're gonna be like descend. They're gonna be like descend 8,000.
But it's on the chart.
But it actually doesn't. I don't have to descend right away.
Oh, all they just say reach that at 8.
All it's saying is, hey, the lowest you can go right now is 8,000, which makes it way harder for the controllers because they have to basically clear you for a descent every single point of the star.
Why? But the numbers are on the star.
The plate. Oh, actually, no. Sorry, that's a lie. They can do it a different way. They can once you get on the star, they can just be like descend to the bottom altitude. But unless they say descent unrestricted, you have to follow every altitude on the star.
So it's a little different.
Yeah, they don't say descend via. They just say descend.
That is so different.
And then at the end, if they tell you to go somewhere lower, they'd be like, if they're like, yo, we need you lower now, basically, they'd be like, descend unrestricted 3,000. And that means that you can just get rid of your VNAV and just start diving.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You get used to it. And probably the captains you fly with, in there, they've done it.
Yeah, they've done it. Some people are like out of practice, but I mean that's why you have two people. I mean, look, captain, first officer. I mean, the discussions have been had, but I mean,
let's talk about that.
Yeah,
let's kick this specific part of the conversation off with, if at all, how weird or how big of an adjustment was it for you to go from not only flying Cessnas but being the instructor to now here you are in a cockpit with two pilots. You're one of the bunch. You're not an instructor. What's that transition like? And then let's talk about like two pilots in the cockpit versus one captain, first officer.
So the transition, well, let's start with the actual, so you have IOE.
Okay.
The transition is like, holy cow, this is complicated. This is fast. There's a lot going on. But thank God the person to my left is a training captain. Right? He's a check airman. And he knows what needs to be done, and he can basically, honestly, if I just shut down, he can do it all himself.
Got it.
Right? You're happy about that. You go into student mode again.
You go into student mode.
100%. It's not like you're sitting here like, man, this is going to be weird not being PIC, right?
Right.
It's not like that at all. The plane is so foreign to you. Like, yeah, your flows, it switches to press, whatever it is, but actually doing it in real world and knowing when I'm going to do this and X, Y, Z, it's a lot different, right?
Right.
Like, oh, this is an appropriate time for this. This is not an appropriate time for this. Whatever it is. And so, like, you look at the person and you're like, wow. It's just like, honestly, it's just like that. You have that look that's just like when you're an instructor or when you're a brand new student and you watch your instructor land for the first time. You're like, wow, that's so cool. That person can do that, right?
Right.
It's just like that. See somebody have a good landing. It's like, dang, man, I wish I was good enough to get that at the time.
Right.
Now you get a couple 100 hours and then it becomes like, now you just start seeing them for who they are. You see the mistakes they're making. You see that everyone's at this level, and it's like, okay, well, I wouldn't do it that way. I would do it this way. If I was a captain, I'd be doing it this way.
Right.
You understand more. You've seen the operation enough to be like, yeah, I wouldn't be that kind of captain.
Right.
I wouldn't be this kind of captain. Oh, I like what this person did. I like what that person did. right? And you look at it from a way that's not like you're overwhelmed. You're completely comfortable in the plane. I see aviation through the Q400 now.
What do you mean?
I see it through the Q400. The Q400. When I think about landing, I think about taking off. I think about going in cruise. I think about descent planning. I think about it through the Q400. I think about what I have to do after I park a plane. Okay, well, like, you park the plane, turn the engine off, plug out your headset, whatever it is. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here like, oh, parking brake set, system, fuel system, aux pump 1, 2, PTU, standby.
That's how you think of it.
Yeah, all of it, right? When I park, I have all this stuff to do. That's what I see. I see it through the lens of the Q400.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, I feel like that's how it is. Everyone, when you get a new type rating, you dump everything
everything you ever knew.
But most of it, right? I mean, you're still going to remember, like, oh, I remember what it was like to fly the plane. But for the purpose of training, you got to dump it all. And then you get into it, and then after that, you can think about the memories of it. You're not going to remember your flows or anything like that. It's an old plane. It's a plane you don't fly anymore.
Right.
But, like, yeah, they immerse you in this training. Airline training is insane, dude. It's not hard, but I'm telling you, the amount you have to do before you even touch the aircraft is crazy to me.
What do you mean the amount you have to do?
The ground school, the procedures training, the limitations, all this stuff. You're going on for like over a month.
Just
without even touching the sim.
Wow.
That's what's crazy to me. I'm like, there's so much stuff that they are teaching you before they even trust you, or they're going to guarantee you. They even trust you to efficiently use the time in a sim. Not even the real plane, in the sim.
Wow.
I thought it was crazy. I sat in the sim for the first time. The very first time I sat in a Q400 cockpit, right? Because, I mean, at that point, it's exactly the same as the plane.
Right.
First time I sat in the Q400 cockpit, I knew all the switches I needed to press.
Everything.
Now, you forget some stuff, sure, and you're a little slow on it, whatever it is, because now you actually have the real feel of the buttons. But from procedures training, from, like, the training on the Paper Tiger, all that stuff, you know exactly what you need to press, even though you've never stepped foot in this cockpit before. That's what I think is insane, right? When you're in traditional flight training, like you're doing like primary stuff, you got your ground school and your flying going on at the same time, whatever it is. They crank the ground school so hard right before you even get there that it's like when you actually step foot in the plane, you are definitely using that time effectively. Definitely.
Wow, to make it worth their money.
Uh-huh.
It's expensive.
Because the sim is expensive. Yeah, it's very expensive. You're paying the instructors, you're paying for the rental time, whatever it is. Unless they own it. A lot of times they own it too. But still, and then you have to like make sure that the time is used efficiently because usually it's booked solid.
Right.
Always. Every sim in the U.S. right now is like booked solid. It's crazy.
Whoa.
Yeah. CAE, flight safety, they are. I mean, if you want to get a type rating and some citation right now, you got like 2 or 3 months to wait, maybe even more than that. It's crazy.
That's how many pilots are coming through the pipeline.
Yeah. But yeah. Anyway, so it's just it was interesting, right? But you're looking at, like I said, you're looking at it like an instructor that's someone they know better than you in this plane, and then obviously that develops. The 2-pilot cockpit thing, it's cool.
Was it weird to, like, did it take? I'm sure it took you a minute to start flying an airplane without feeling the need of maybe talking or giving input or not instructing, but it must be there must be like a. Took you a few flights to settle into just being a pilot and not an instructor.
No.
The
instructor part went out the window already.
Quick.
That was gone immediately because you have too much to pay attention to. You have way too much to pay attention to. Like, you honestly forget how to be a pilot. You start messing up comms. I haven't messed up comms in a year, 2 years.
Because you're so out of your element.
Yeah. It's just like when you step foot in a cockpit that you're unfamiliar with.
Right.
The amount of time you're spending looking around and trying to understand what's going on around you takes away from your ability to actually be a pilot. All the decision making process. Okay, so like, when you talk about, you can read a book, you can do whatever you want, but like it doesn't mean you have to experience things to make a decision, right?
Right.
In order to make a good decision, a safe decision, you have to have some sort of experience and be like, okay, I've seen something similar to this before, and this is probably the best course of action because, whatever. You watch a video, somebody crashed for something, and you're like, okay, well, oh, crap, we're in a situation kind of like that. I know what not to do, X, Y, Z, right? But, if you just read a book, you're not going to get anything from that.
Right.
Right? So it's like as an instructor, you learn a lot. You learn a lot about decision making and what you can and can't do, and you understand plan. You understand all sorts of stuff, more stuff than you actually think you do that apply to airline flying. Right?
I believe that.
Way more. And so when you sit in that cockpit for the first time, you're doing real stuff here, right? You're like, all that goes out the window. All of it. You, to the check airman, especially on like OE1, the first trip of OE, they're probably looking at you like you are an idiot.
I believe
you are as dumb as can be. You literally can't even read back an approach clearance. You can't do anything. It's just too much for you.
Whoa.
Right? Trip 2 gets a little better, then it gets a little better, then it gets a little better. And then it becomes like, okay, all the stuff that I previously learned as being a pilot, it's not back with me. I'm comfortable in the plane, so now I can go back and actually be the pilot that I expect to be. I know how to take my skills as a pilot and apply it to this plane.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it takes a level of getting comfortable on the plane.
Yeah, it's not about just being a good pilot. It's about, like, in general, I feel like piloting stuff, it's about taking your skills as a pilot and transferring them into the plane that you're actually flying, right? And while you're figuring that out, you can't be a good pilot.
Right.
If I was sitting in the jump seat, maybe, because I'm not actually doing anything. I'm sure I can look at things, make decisions, see traffic, all that stuff, whatever.
Right.
But when I'm actually operating the machinery, then I'm kind of like...
You're zoomed in.
Yeah, I can't see the big picture. I can't tell anything. I have to learn how to channel what I've learned through, or how to like channel all of the good that I've learned from instructing through this plane. And I just don't. And sometimes you're sitting there, you don't know how it applies yet.
Well,
you'll figure it out, but at the beginning, you don't know how it applies.
How long do you think it took you until you reached a point where you showed up to a flight and you go, okay, I'm one with the airplane. I could do this in my sleep. I'm comfortable.
Probably like, I don't know. I think it's hit or miss. It depends. If you've been flying a lot, like you're big chilling.
2 months?
Yeah. I mean, no, like actually like flying a lot. It's not even about like, I mean, I do think it's by time, but if you're on reserve and you're never getting called.
Oh yeah.
Like for the longest time, you'll like, it can be months and you still don't feel like comfortable.
How long did it take you to get to that point?
Like time wise or hours wise or
time.
Dude, it just, honestly, there was times where I felt good, didn't fly for a while, and then I came back and I'm like, oh man, this is like, it makes me feel uncomfortable. Not like a bad way. It's like you're coming down the runway and you're like, oh crap, I have to do this. You know, I gotta land. I gotta land right now, and I'm hoping that's not gonna be hard. And then you have like the trip that I just had. I'm like, oh man, like if anything harder than literally you can't even feel you're on the ground, I'm like, that wasn't that good. Yeah.
Whoa. So your standards of yourself go up.
Oh, dude, went way up. I figured it out. Everyone says this plane humbles you and that you can't. Actually, no, I'll be honest. You can just smash it sometimes. Like you think the landing's gonna be good and it's just a pounder, absolute pounder.
Is it the same problems that cause your landings to be pounders like they are in a 172? Does it come down to depth perception or something else?
No, the plane just sucks.
The plane. Don't tell me you blame the plane.
No. Ask any Q pilot.
You could do everything
gear,
right.
Okay, you see the gear mounted. It's mounted on the wing, dude.
It's mounted on the engine.
Right. It's in the engine. It's in the nacelle on the wing, right?
Crazy.
Sitting there. Every other plane has like space for shocks and stuff, dude. This plane,
nothing.
If you flare at all, because it's on a freaking stick, right? The gear's on a stick. It doesn't take a landing well. It just doesn't take it well. Some planes are stiffer than others. If you're doing your walk around, you see a bunch of shock, like a bunch of like metal at the wheel. Oh, you know that you're never gonna grease that plane because it's so stiff.
Whoa.
It just is what it is, right? Other thing, right? Landing turboprops. I don't know. I haven't flown any other turboprops, but specifically this one. It does not like when you reduce power when you're landing.
What do you mean? Before or after touchdown?
Before touchdown.
So does it stop flying fast?
Oh yeah, it'll drop out of the sky.
Really?
Dude, you have to look these turboprops, especially like this. Look at the size of if you look at a Q400 and look at the size of the props, and then you look at the nacelle and how thin it is. Let's just think of like a Seminole, right? If you look at the props, like dude, the only place it's getting thrust is like when the props are in the upright position, right? Because the nacelle's blocking all the thrust after that, right? If you look at the Q400, there is no blade going the waist. Right. The entire blade is producing thrust and not hitting anything.
Right.
But you know where else that air is going? Right over the wing. It is producing probably like 30 to 33% of the lift the whole wing is getting just behind the prop.
Wow. So if you bring it to idle, you lost all that lift.
And the plane just goes straight into the runway.
So I'm assuming
we don't land idle.
I'm assuming its best glide speed, anything to do with best glide, like its ratio, is sucks.
No, I don't think that's the problem.
So if you lost an engine, you pitch for best glide, how far forward are you getting?
You mean you lost both engines?
Yeah, let's say you lost both engines.
I think the thing would be fine.
So it would glide?
Yeah, it would glide fine. That's not the problem, though. The problem is if you are coming to a runway with a certain amount of lift and then you take away that lift.
It's gone fast.
Yeah, you're not. It's not about the fact that the plane can't land idle. it's that like the amount of change it has for lift. It's like, it's that was the word I'm looking for. It'd be unreasonable.
I see what you're saying.
It'd be unreasonable to expect a pilot to have a reaction time fast enough to stop the plane from dropping.
I see what you're saying.
And not only to mention that if we go more than 6 degrees nose up, we're tail striking. So with those two things in mind, where the plane can't be flared and basically can't be flared, and if you cut the power to idle, you lose a bunch of lift, the solution to the problem is just land with power.
Is that what you typically do, land with power?
Everyone does.
So you land
there's only one guy. Actually, I flew with him 2 trips ago. He's the only person I've ever seen land without power.
Idle.
Yeah.
And how's his landing?
They're good. I mean, it was like, you watch it and you're like, dude, I would need like a lot of time to work up to this. Like if I would ever want to get to the point where I can land that plane idle, because they don't even tell you in the sim, they're like, yo, do not land idle. Do not land idle. Do not land. They tell you that.
So he figured it out.
Yeah. He's been there for like 30 years.
Whoa.
In order for me to do it, I would have to like every landing reduce power, and go more and more each time until I got to the flight idle gate. Whoa. Then it would work out. But there's no way that I can go from how I land now to how he lands in like one flight. I'd probably crash the plane.
So he comes in hotter.
He comes in like 5 knots fast. 5 knots fast, and then just rips it. Just rips it back, and then just yanks the yoke.
He rips it.
Yeah, dude. It's actually like a marvel to see. It's crazy.
Dude, and his landings are good.
Yeah, no, I mean, like it's surprising. If I were to do that, everyone's spine would come out of their throat.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And then the deceleration after touchdown on that plane.
Oh boy.
Dude, it
gets
weird.
Going. Yeah, I don't. Actually, never mind. I do it by the book. I pull it back immediately.
Everything's by the book.
No.
Yeah,
I mean,
everything's by the book.
A lot of people will. The book says to bring it into a disc is what we call it, which is just like the beta range. Props go flat. It produces a lot of drag, but it's not reverse. That's how we usually stop.
Is that the sound like someone barfing?
Yeah. And so like, I mean, it makes a loud whooshing sound. I go back kind of slow. Not all the time. Like if you know, it depends on weight. It depends on all sorts of stuff, like, you know, stopping distance, whatever it is. Like if okay, I'm landing on like if I'm landing like a 6,500 or 7,000 foot runway, I'm like immediately there, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to stop pretty soon. I want to, you know, give yourself some space, especially when they get icy and snowy and all that stuff. It's important. But then it's like, okay, SeaTac, you got you have a 737 creeping, right? Flying ridiculous approach speeds, and you're going hella slow. You know, that might be a situation where you bring it back a little bit slower. Like, you know, like you're gonna make the first exit anyway,
right?
Which should be November on 16, right? You're gonna make that first exit anyway. You're just increasing the amount of time you're gonna be on the runway.
Yeah, Andy, what do you wish you knew, or what would you tell people about the whole reserve versus line versus airline life that you didn't know, maybe wish you did know? What'd you learn? What are some stuff you could tell people?
If you're on reserve, you probably want to move. If you get a base and there's no end in sight for when you're going to be awarded, let's say you get a base you don't want, and there's no end in sight to where you're going to get the base you do want, it might be ideal for you to just live in that other base. Commuting to reserve is like the worst thing ever.
Commuting and reserve are the two things that suck the most.
Well, commuting to reserve.
That's even worse.
Yeah. Sometimes you go somewhere, you spend time away from home, and then maybe you don't get called. You were away from home for 6 days, and then you don't work, and you're like, why was I even here? You know what I mean?
Right.
That's big.
Right.
Commuting to a line though, I don't think that's that big of a deal.
Right.
It's whatever. Like you're flying to your base to get started, and you know, you just fly. You get there and then you start work.
Right.
But when you're getting there and you have no idea when you're going to be called or if you're going to be called or whatever it is, then that's.
Did you ever have to do that? Where'd you commute from? Florida?
No, I commuted from
Phoenix for a while. No.
I commuted from Seattle and Portland. I had moved in the time. I was based in Spokane.
Wow.
I was based in Spokane. Now, mind you, I could have got Portland when I was living in Portland. I mean, I am now, but I could have got Portland when I was living in Portland. But I love Spokane crews.
Spokane.
Yeah, Spokane crews are the best.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I still think they are, but I mean,
what makes them good?
I don't know. Just
laid back.
Yeah, just super chill. Actually, reminds me of Florida. Like people are really chill there. It's usually a bunch of older guys. You can learn a lot from them. A lot of the guys are check airmen.
Whoa.
So you can get a lot of good information there. You can get it from other bases too, but just a percentage of people.
Right.
It's a little bit different, right? Like you're gonna okay, let's say Portland has like I don't know, let's say it's 15 check airmen, but it has like 100 pilots there. Okay, well, fine. But then you say Spokane has 10 check airmen and 20 pilots. Well, half the pilots are literally check airmen. So you might get somebody with good information 50% of the time. So it happens like that. And then also, like, I got really into poker. So it's also that.
Poker in Spokane?
Yeah.
Are there casinos?
There's a casino that was like less than a mile from my crash pad.
I got really into poker.
So, yeah. No, dude, poker's dope. I think poker.
Like, if anybody's,
yeah. Like, I mean,
I don't think I've ever heard anyone say I got into poker in Spokane.
Yeah, I mean, there's a casino there, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna play poker because we go and we play craps and like roulette and stuff. Dude, the house always has some sort of like half a percentage advantage or whatever it is, right? That's how that works.
Right.
That's how casino games work. Poker was the one thing that if you're like, I was looking up, I was like, dude, I'm literally never getting called. Like, what am I gonna do here? And I'm like, oh, I'm like the only thing that was within driving distance right down to, like, or walking distance right down to the Uber was a freaking casino. I was like, all right, I guess I'm gonna go to a casino and figure something out. So like I started playing, and then like, well, I looked it up. I was like, dude, what games at the casino can be profitable? I know you can count cards and blackjack, sure, right? But you're gonna get kicked out of the casino. That's the only casino I have, so I can't get kicked out of this casino. So how can I make money? And it was like, oh, the answer was studying poker. I was like, you can be a good. Oh, I love it. I think poker, like, oh man, I wish I got into this earlier. I absolutely love poker.
Whoa.
It's a sick game. It's completely dope. Like, it is 100% a game where if you are good at the game, you will consistently win money.
There's a way to do it.
Yeah.
You could learn it.
Yes. You have to study it, like, regularly. But yes.
Wow.
Yeah, poker's not just it's not a probability game.
I did not know that.
It's like there's a bunch of stuff to it. But yes, there's people that are better than other people.
Wow.
You understand people's tendencies. You understand all sorts of stuff. And it's not just about, everyone thinks poker is like, oh, like you have a good poker face or you don't have any tells or whatever it is. Okay, that's part of it. But there's a fundamental understanding you have to have before any of that comes through that, like, that's how you have to be good.
Wow.
Yeah. Poker's dope.
Dude, I'm sitting here thinking, you're an airline pilot.
Yeah.
You are what you always wanted to be.
Yep.
Does it feel better or worse? Not worse, but how good does it feel compared to how good you thought it would feel? It's a job.
Yeah, but I mean, I still like it. But I guess everyone has like ceilings.
What do you mean?
Or I guess no, everyone has floors, right? Uh-huh. So I think actually I watched like it was Dan Bilzerian.
Okay.
It was like some interview, and he made a good point. When I hear, okay, let's say you're a billionaire, right? And you're complaining that, your surf and turf, whatever, it just wasn't at the perfect temperature. Or somebody like slightly overcooked your steak by 10 seconds and you're annoyed, right? I'm sitting here like, what? I mean, it's not that big of a deal, right? But if you're a billionaire and you're used to having everything that's just complete perfection, if anything's less than perfect, then you have a right to complain.
Right.
Because that's your life. Right. And so when I'm flying 172s, I want to fly something faster. Okay. I'm flying something faster. I want to fly something faster. You know what I mean? It's just like, it just keeps going that way. But then this is what I do now.
Yeah.
This is what I fly. I fly these. I know that sometimes, like, I look, okay, if we're passing a 172, it's like a Delta airport, whatever it is. Right. Like I'll like, if I see them, like, or like, actually no, 172s are hard to see because of where the wings are. But if it's like a Cherokee or something, if I see them looking over, I'll always wave, man. Because I thought, like, when I was an instructor, I was like, oh, it's cool. The airline pilot waved to me. You know what I mean? Right. That's where I want to be in a couple months or whatever. Right. So like, I understand that there is an envy there, but then I also understand that this is what I do. So it's like, now that I've been doing it for a little while, I'm like, okay, like, it is cool, but I'm also now used to it. This is what my life is.
And that's the problem, right? Yeah. If only we could not get used to things.
Yeah.
I'd pay a lot of money to never get used to things.
If someone could figure that out, they would be filthy rich.
Dude.
Filthy rich. For every time that you show up to something, it's like the first time you had it.
It's like the first time. Not get used to it. Dude, no one would get divorced.
Yeah, I know.
It's always the honeymoon phase.
Always.
You don't get used to it.
Uh-huh.
That's the world we live in.
How could we make that happen?
You just got to pop a pill, and it's called never get used to things.
That's the name of the pill. You don't want to get any more creative than that?
How good am I at marketing?
Like, I wonder what that pill does.
It's a never get used to things pill.
Like, oh yeah, what does it do? You just never get used to things. Yeah, that sounds typical.
Dude, I like it. So everyone have their floors.
Yeah.
And your floor's higher right now.
Yeah.
Than it was back then.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to be going to Fly 172. I'd be pretty bored.
Right.
What?
You know, there's a saying in Judaism, and there's a saying in Judaism that goes, it talks about who is rich, who's considered to be rich.
Yeah.
And the saying goes, who is rich? Like question. And the answer is that who is happy in with their share.
Yeah.
That's rich.
It's true.
It's not a money amount.
No, it's not.
It's not an amount. It's not a
matter.
quantity. One who's happy, the happier you are with what you have and where you're at.
Yeah.
The richer you are.
It's true though.
And,
that's exactly what it is.
And it's really interesting. You know what I mean? Like you're saying, on the one hand, we live in a world. It's not only easy, it's natural for you to always look at the next thing and want more and faster. Like I said, I want to fly faster.
Human nature.
Way. Yeah. And it really takes a conscious decision to slow down and say, whoa, I'm actually doing what I always wanted to do.
Yeah. No, and I have this realization sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm just sitting up there at cruise. I'm looking at a nice sunset. I'm like, this job is so dope.
I'm doing it.
I'm like, this is so cool. I was like, we have the best job ever. And then it's always followed by the captain's like, yeah, it's not bad. It's like, yeah, this is pretty cool. He's like, it's not bad. It's like I couldn't sit in an office. They're like, yeah, agreed. I can't sit in an office either. This is a sick office.
It's a sick office.
You know, I don't want to sit inside in a cubicle for 8 hours a day. I don't want to do it.
Wow.
I prefer this. This is a lot better.
Poor cubicle people.
Yeah, man.
Every time people want to make a point of I have the best job ever, they use the cubicle example.
True. Oh, true. Some people like that too.
Poor cubicle people.
Yeah, it's always cubicle people.
But you're
also in the aviation industry. We always use that example.
I know. In aviation, I'd rather do this than sit at a cubicle.
Actually, who am I kidding? No, they always say, I didn't want some desk job, so I opened a company.
Desk job.
Yeah.
How many people sit at desks?
Yeah, desk job. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but I'm with you. It's still that incredible. Dude, you got to come back on. We could talk forever.
Yeah.
We could talk forever.
We'll just have something. We'll do something specific.
I actually have someone in mind who we could do 3 of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be a really interesting.
Dude, I'd be so down.
Conversation.
I want to have like we need to have a conversation that's very specific.
Yes.
Just like one very tiny topic, and we'll just hit it for like hours.
Just hit it and just hit it. Yeah. Because there's, with these, it's listen. There's so much to you, so much to your story, so much to get to know you.
Everybody.
So it's everybody. And so it's like you really got to come back on, and then we could really hit more. So is there anything you would tell? So there's millions of people watching this right now.
True.
Millions.
Billions. I think there might be billions.
There's
a couple aliens even watching this too. Yeah. they love it.
This in Mars.
Yeah.
So what would you tell people, especially in this climate today, in terms of airlines? Which airline do I want to go through? Hiring, interviews. What are some stuff what's some truth you would spit out to people, knowing what you know today?
In a way, like where should they go, or
let's say someone's at ATP instructing, just from what you know, like how do I decide? Let's go with this. How do I decide what airline to go to?
Okay, yeah.
What are some considerations that might affect
I think there's only one consideration now.
Okay.
Where it's based, right?
Base.
I think the base is the most important part right now. I think. I mean, it's just me. I don't really care if I fly huge planes or whatever it is. It's like I said, it's all the same. Might be dope taxing it, but like by that age anyway, you're already at the point where you're just like, give me my vacation time, and I just want cool layovers, whatever it is. Not really about the plane anymore. That by the time you get to like a wide body captain,
right,
that kind of goes out the window. Now, when you have people like getting hired at like United or American or whatever it is, or Delta, and then like because of shortages, they immediately go from like a regional jet to 777 or like or like a A350, let's say.
Dude, Sean from ATP, Sean Comstock.
I don't know him.
You don't remember him?
I don't think so.
Dude, you don't remember him?
No.
He's a 787 sim instructor at United.
Nice. All right, I don't know what to say to that. Like, how does that even? What?
Your face. So apparently, United have this thing.
I think I know what happened.
It's part of Aviate. No, it's part of Aviate.
Okay.
So he committed to 2 years to instruct in their sim.
Yeah.
And then he goes to wide body FO.
Seriously?
Yeah. So instead of it bypasses the regional.
So he's going to go to a wide body FO at 1500 hours?
I think wide body, but straight to United FO.
Yeah.
Not at 15. He started it. He had to have 15 to do it. But it replaces the regional. So instead of going to a regional, he's a sim instructor.
Yeah, so he's going to have 1500 hours when he goes to a wide body FO.
No. Oh, yeah. You mean an actual airplane?
Yeah.
He started
like, he'll understand
16.
how to fly the plane, sure, whatever. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I got you.
Yeah. But he's been in the sim. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, okay. So, like, I guess at that point, you're at the company that you want to be at. But I'm just saying, like, in general, like, it just doesn't. I feel like typically, unless you're young and get up in a situation like that where you have this superiority complex and it's like, oh, I'm bigger, mine's bigger than yours, right? Like, it's
size does matter.
Yeah, right? You're sitting there like, oh, like you're just going to talk down at everyone who flies something smaller than what you fly.
Right.
It's like, oh, you're like on the 767, like, well, I fly a 747.
Yeah.
It's like you fly something tiny. I fly a wide body too, but it's not as big as my wide body. But I mean, but I feel like by the time you even have the seniority to make it to captain and actually have a decent schedule, at that point, the plane doesn't matter anymore.
It's all about lifestyle.
It's literally all about lifestyle. It's like, oh, I want to go to Greece and I want to have like a 38-hour overnight or something like that. Something ridiculous like that. I feel like that's what matters. So
you're saying people should maybe not make the specific type of metal, the airplane, as important.
That doesn't matter. Correct.
Got it.
I feel like that's something, like I said, as an instructor, you care about that stuff. Like, I want to fly this plane. I think it'd be so cool, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. Now, I am skeptical about spending my entire career in like a 737.
So Southwest is not like for you.
Yeah, but the problem is they have an Orlando base.
I love Southwest.
So, yeah, but the thing is, like, dude,
don't be shocked.
737 is just...
Don't be shocked if I end up at Southwest.
Yeah, Southwest is great. I mean, I have no problems with them, and honestly, they're in the consideration, right? But, like, I guess it's not just one consideration. There's bases, there's the metal, kind of. Not because it's like, I want to fly that, right? Okay, Airbuses are just more comfortable than Boeings.
Right.
It's what it is.
100%.
Right? You have a side stick. You have nothing between your legs. You just sit there. You have a tray. You can eat. You can put your feet up on a footrest. There's all sorts of stuff there that's comfortable in the plane. It is a plane you can retire in. Right. There's so much space in there. You would have no problem staying in there. If I spend 45 years, not 45 years, if I spend 30 years in a tight cockpit and that's all I've ever flown, it's like, man,
and you're tall.
Yeah. Right.
What are you, 6'1"?
Yeah, 6'1".
Dude.
And so, like, that's important, I guess. But base is huge, though. Yeah. Because, and the reason why I say base, I don't even care about work rules anymore. Work rules, that's all going to come around. Everyone's going to be so short here in the next 5 years that everyone's contract will be as good as everyone's contract. The pay, who cares? Okay, the pay doesn't matter. Yeah, let's say you're going to make like $500,000 a year doing UPS, Delta, FedEx if you get wide body captain. That's a long time down the line. You have so much money to be made at any airline as a captain, like whenever you get upgraded. Like now, it doesn't even matter. Work rules, like I said, you might even go somewhere that's horrible work rules right now, but I guarantee you they're going to have a pilot shortage issue. There's two things that are going to happen. Either they're going to go under because they can't find pilots, or they're going to change their contract to find pilots, and that's typically the latter, right? So it's just location. Yeah. Location, and then is your lifelong goal to have these, like when your kids leave the house, if you have kids or whatever, when kids leave the house, is your lifelong goal to spend these, couple nights a month in Europe and get paid to do it? If that's what you want to, then obviously you need to pick an airline with planes that are going to have that. Not because you specifically want to fly an A350 or an A330 or whatever it is, right? But because of where the plane goes.
That's a lifestyle that you want.
Yeah, if that's what you want. So it's like, okay, do you care for doing that stuff? If you don't care for doing that stuff, then then pick somewhere that has a base that's nearby you, and that doesn't matter. Now, of course, if you're trying to do that stuff eventually later on, you're limited to the airlines you can do. You're not gonna end up with these crazy overnights flying for Southwest.
Right.
Right. Now you're gonna go Cancun, all that stuff, whatever. But for Southwest, you're not gonna end up going across the pond. But Southwest, I've heard, great company to work for.
Yeah.
Right. Awesome company to work for.
Andy, what do you love most about your job?
I don't know. I think it's just how dynamic it is. How much more goes into flying a plane than flying a plane?
Ooh, what do you
think it's dope. Managing flight attendants, looking at weather, briefing passengers, especially now, dude, the masks, man, that's been something. But like for me, I don't mind I mean, yeah, companies have rules for like masks and XYZ and how you're supposed to behave on the plane. But like when things are going south in that way, I think it's cool, man. Makes the day interesting.
Right.
And it's like stuff that I'm never going to have this issue if I'm flying a 172, right? I have to have people in the back with differing opinions for me to have some sort of interesting day. Or like someone has food poisoning, or like, just figuring this out. It's just cool going from you're flying for yourself to then you're flying for other people. And then it's like, okay, now the change is like, you got to keep them in mind. Like, okay, I, as an instructor, would go through this cloud, but I'm not going to go through it anymore because there's a bunch of people in the back and they probably don't want to take the bumps.
Yeah.
It's the little stuff that's actually like doesn't really matter, but it does matter.
Right.
Or like, man, someone's like late to the flight. We're gonna hold. I don't know. It's just anything that's abnormal operations. My favorite part, for sure.
How much do you think about the passengers behind you on a typical flight?
Okay, so that's funny that you talk about that. When I first started, a lot. When I was on reserve, a lot, because I just didn't want to have pounding landings, right? Then like you'll have like a whole trip where you like almost forget that you have passengers. Like I don't even look back there once. Cockpit doors open, don't even turn around. I just have my foot up on like the whatever, like the panel. My foot up there. I'm just sitting there, just waiting for the door to be closed so I can continue. Yeah. Sometimes I'm like I remember, actually, it's not usually the whole trip. It's usually the last day. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna stand up and greet passengers to remind myself that I fly passengers.
Whoa.
Yeah. Sometimes you're just so.
It's easy. It's easy to not to sort of lose it.
Yeah, I do the parking checklist, pull my phone out, and I start watching something on YouTube. I don't know.
And then to the next leg.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Like too. Like I mean, there's like company policies. Like you're not supposed to have your phone out when passengers are on board and whatever it is. So sometimes it's like you're just sitting there, or you're doing your duties or whatever, or you're just sitting there thinking about stuff or whatever. But I mean, yeah, man, there's times
when you first start, you think about it, and then it's like, okay, this is you get.
When you close the door, it's just a plane now. When you close the door, there's no passengers behind you. Which again, I say it's funny because you're still flying the plane as if there's passengers, but there's no passengers behind you, right? I can go. I'll have multiple flights in a row. I don't even know what a single person looks like on the. Actually, no, it's a lie, because when they walk out, you can see them through the cockpit, whatever. But I mean, if I just chose to look to the other side, literally, I would never know what they look like.
Wow.
Right. And so, but I do enjoy making PAs. PAs are fun.
You like that?
Yeah. I like that a lot.
I want to hear you make a PA.
All right, my typical one.
No, hold on. I want to pick which one do I want? So let's start with. You don't make any on the ground. The captain does.
Correct. that. I make one on the ground, but it's a short one, just to the flight attendants prepare for.
Okay, that's like prepare for departure.
Yeah.
But then the one you do make, I'm assuming, is when you're pilot monitoring. You make the cruise one. We leveled off at cruise, and then the top of descent.
Yeah.
So give me the cruise one. We just leveled off at cruise.
All right. So let's say we're going to Spokane. It's usually at 23,000. So we're like folks from the flight deck, reach our cruising altitude at 23,000 feet. Gonna go ahead and turn the fasten seatbelt sign off. We're expecting mostly smooth rides. But we do ask that when you're in your seats, you keep your seatbelt securely fastened in case we encounter any unexpected turbulence. Be like, we got about 15 minutes till we start down, which is not too long. So go ahead and if you have to get up to go to the bathroom, then go ahead and do that.
Good idea to do it.
Now, so that when we start in that descent, and we get that seatbelt sign back on. You're not up, right? What else do I usually say?
Thanks for flying with us today.
Yeah, I'll usually be like, we'll give you another update as we get closer as to our estimated time of arrival. But yeah, sit back, relax, enjoy the ride.
I love it.
And then you start down and be like, all right, but we'll be starting down here in about 5 minutes or so. So actually, yeah, if it's short like that, I won't make another one. But if it's like a long one where we're at cruise for like an hour and a half, whatever it is, then it'll be like, I'll give them like a 10-minute or 5-minute warning and say, hey, like if you have to go to the bathroom, go, whatever. And then, when we expect to be at the gate, I'm like, appreciate you coming along. Looking forward to seeing another flight,
So it's safe to say that one of your most favorite parts of your job are PAs.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, sure. I love them, man. I love them.
You're an airline pilot.
Yeah, man.
But you know what? I totally get it.
Hit him with the Oklahoma City,
dude.
That was going on for like 3-4 minutes.
This is your captain speaking. My name is Bill.
There you go. That's how you do it.
I'm assisted by co-captain. Old school say co-captain.
I love that. Yeah. I'm gonna do that too.
The old school say co-captain.
My co-captain. Yeah. I like that.
The old school people have their own terms. Co-captain. They don't say flight deck, cockpit. Folks from the cockpit.
I had a guy say folks from the pointy end. I said, ladies and gentlemen from the pointy end.
on your flight?
Yeah. He was captain.
From the pointy end.
From the pointy end. Dude, this guy, his PAs for the initial one were hilarious. He
like legit funny or just trying to be funny?
No, legit. Fun. Actually, I don't know. I mean,
most of them just try.
No. He would make some jokes sometimes, but like you're listening to this guy and he's like, yeah, we're gonna be cruising at like 19,000 feet, blah 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 blah. And I'm looking at the release and I'm like, we're not cruising at 19,000 feet. He starts talking about the temperature wherever we're going. I'm like, that's like 20 degrees off, dude. He's just saying random stuff. He's literally just saying random stuff to these people. Mind you, who cares? They have their apps. They're gonna pull out their phone. They
won't know.
They don't care, dude. But he just starts saying ridiculous stuff.
You can't. No one will look at it and go, hey, that's not 19,000 feet.
Yeah, no. I mean, but this guy doesn't. He doesn't even. He just starts talking about stuff. And I'm like, one day it's gonna be like in the winter, and he's gonna like accidentally say it's like 80 degrees in Seattle, and then be like, what? Like someone's gonna hear that and be like, what is this guy smoking?
Oh my
right?
gosh.
You say stuff like that. I remember one time he had one of his buddies deadheading in the back, and then he finishes like he just like halfway does the PA. I mean, he welcomes him aboard and tells him how long the flight's gonna be. He makes that up too sometimes, and then he's like, well, in like 16 Delta. That guy was part of the project that got the rover onto Mars. So if you have any questions about that, go ahead and ask him. And the guy has nothing to do with any of this stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, man. He just hits him with It's like, dude, you're just why?
That's crazy.
Or like some people will say like, oh, it's the flight attendant in the front. It's her birthday.
Yeah,
it's not her
birthday.
I've
heard that before.
Yeah. It's just that's the kind of guy that guy.
And then everyone gets a happy birthday.
Yeah, someone gave her a $5 gift card. I don't know why they had a $5 gift card on them. But someone gave her a $5 gift card. It's like, yeah, that was nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, I think PAs are cool. Yeah,
I love it. I love it. You know what? It's actually it's probably going to be one of my favorite parts too. I love it.
It's cool.
I love that.
Don't go too hard though.
No, not too hard. But you know what? It's my dream of wanting to fly. Really was created the place it was born was being a passenger.
Yeah.
And honestly, a huge part of that was like hearing the PAs, hearing the pilots. Yeah. And thinking to myself, picturing myself being up there and making the PA. Like that for me is where it started.
Yeah.
And so I think all of it, like thanking the passengers on the way out.
Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, in my situation.
But when you do it, it feels good. There's no space. You can't really stand.
Yeah, you got to stand behind the flight attendant. Or sometimes, I never ask, but I mean, I guess you could have a flight attendant sit down in the first row and then you just do the greeting.
Yeah.
They're still watching all the stuff, whatever it is. Actually, I don't know what their book says. But yeah. I haven't been there before. It's nice when you hear it, when somebody like, I had this really nice landing the other day, like borderline, like you don't even know you're on the ground landing, right? Like I'm saying, like it was a really good landing,
right?
And you hear a couple people give compliments, and it's like that's nice. You feel good about it. It feels good. Like you forget, and you learn though as you go on. You can be really good. You can be a really good pilot, but always be humble. Always be humble.
Dude.
Flight attendant says, wow, whose landing was that? It was really good. And then it's like, oh, it's mine. Yeah. You know, sometimes you get lucky. Yeah. You hit them with that. Yeah. Now, mind you, they're on this 4-day with you, and every landing you've had is a greaser. But you still tell them, yeah, I just got lucky. Got lucky. Wow, I got lucky like 10 times. That's crazy.
That's funny.
You know?
Do you guys stick with the flight attendants on the whole trip?
Dude, we've been playing flight attendant roulette.
What do you mean?
Like, I mean, it's just we're getting a whole bunch of reserve flight attendants, and I swear every day. I mean, I had one like we're on the leg. Oh, I don't remember what leg we were on. We're like day 2. We already had like 5 or 6 flight attendants change out.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like it's crazy.
But you stick with the captain all month.
No, just for the trip.
Oh, you switch
it's like 4 days. Yeah. If I had to stick with the captain all month, I would. Yeah.
But most airlines stick with all month, right? Because they get actual like lines paired. They have paired lines.
We get some airlines do that because they do line bids.
But not you.
We do pairings. We do preferential bidding. So like they have pairings, right? They have a bunch of 1, 2, 3, and 4 day trips,
right?
And then you put what you want, and then it basically finds
captain
trips.
and an FO.
No. Yeah. There's captain. Well, yeah.
Captain and an FO each get a month-long line together, and then they could trade in and out of it and play with it.
That's at some airlines, not at ours.
Not yours. Some airlines, but you guys don't do that.
Well, actually, not even though. Sometimes, okay, let's say like this trip goes from, I don't know, I'm just making up stuff now, Seattle to Orlando, then to JFK or whatever, right? There might be an FO trip that lines up with it. That'll be like, oh, never mind. It's hard to explain. I'm just saying that I don't think you stay with the same person all the time. Even if you do line bidding, it'll be like this trip. Okay, so let's say I have the trip numbers. I have trips 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Okay.
Right? They flip around numbers, so now those trip numbers are 2, 6, 12, and 14 for FOs. And then it would be like, oh, I still have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now I might have like I have one trip that's with this guy, but my 2 is different from your 2 because the captain lines are, I don't know. It's just, but you don't typically, like, you can be in a situation like that, but I don't think regularly you're with the same person the whole month.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Unless you've seen that. Is that? I mean, I'm sure you can bid that way for sure, but I don't think that happens typically, especially not here. Very rarely do I fly with the same person in the same month.
Whoa.
Yeah, because it's just like, hey, they have what they want, what they prefer. Now, if we're both senior and we both bid exactly the same thing, we're probably gonna get the same trips, right?
Right.
It's like, I want specifically this, I want these overnights or whatever it is, and it's like, well, these trips exist and you guys are on it every time.
Yeah.
And that happens sometimes. But for me, it's like I bid for block time. I want the most hours I can possibly get out of my month. I don't want any deadheads. I don't want any of that garbage, right? I want to fly. When I'm on an aircraft, I want to be logging time.
Yeah, a United pilot said, anytime my car is parked in the parking lot, I want to be making money.
Yeah. I mean, he cares about the money. I care about the time because I want to get to the point where I care about the money.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's what and that's why he flies international. We're talking about international domestic, and he was saying, we're talking about it. He said, I could fly, 5 legs in domestic and only, spend a whole day and only walk away with 5 hours or 6 hours. And he said international, he does the Sydney, and it's 14 hours of pay each leg, each way.
Yeah.
And so when my car is parked in the parking lot, I want to be making as much money as I can. And so I can't blame him for that.
Yeah. It's important. That's the things that matter. If you're at the airline you want to be at, hours don't matter anymore. It's all about the money. All about the money.
Let's say there's someone out there watching.
Okay.
And wants to do what you do.
Yeah.
What do you tell them?
I think flight instructing is really important. Okay. I think the best pilots I've flown with at an airline were flight instructors. I think you should go through your thing, and you need to have a CFII. It's important too.
Ooh.
Okay, can't just have a CFI.
So basically, from talking with you today, I love it. I never thought of this way. A true PIC is an instructor.
Oh yeah.
But not only that, a really good pilot, like the point when you really get good, is instructing.
Yep. Instructing teaches you all the things you're going to have to know, and then you just learn how to apply it to later on.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, for example, and I'm not saying this is not everybody. There are people that are just take the initiative and they're very good, right?
Right.
But if you go from being a student, oh, you're logging PIC time, that's great, right? Okay, I'm sorry. If you have to go look at the regulations to figure out if you're logging PIC time or not,
right,
then you're not the PIC.
Right.
Okay, that's how it goes. Right. Just because you have a type rating on some citation, and you have a PIC type rating on some citation, but you're sitting right seat, or like let's say it's one of those where you switch and you're sitting left seat, but there's actually a captain next to you still. If you're ever in that situation, right, and you're logging PIC time because you legally can,
right,
you're not learning as much as you could be.
Right.
So I see it like I've seen situations. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. Like I said, it's not always bad. Some people are just better than other people, right? But if you're not like super strong, and the only thing that you do is you get your licenses. Then you get hired at some place that, you fly PC-12s, right seat. You fly a single pilot plane, right seat, right? There's a captain making the decisions in a single pilot plane, and you're sitting there logging time as SIC or whatever it is, or maybe PIC time because you have a high performance endorsement and a high altitude endorsement, right? So you can legally log PIC time, right? Okay, so if you're doing that, and then let's say the company's like, hey, we upgrade people to captain at 1,500 hours, but you don't want to stay there. So you're like, I'm going to jump ship. I'm going to an airline. All right. Now you need 1,000 hours of 121 time so you can get to upgrade captain legally, right? So then you get the 1,000 hours as a first officer. And then now you're actually the captain of an airliner in a 121 environment when you have never been the PIC before.
Right. Wow.
And that happens. And that's where you find situations where the first officer is just a better pilot than the captain. Now, I'm not saying like the captain, and there's levels to things, right? Let's talk about levels. Okay, watching a private pilot make mistakes is a lot different than watching someone with an ATP make mistakes. Right? Typically, the mistakes that an ATP is making are not even anywhere near the level of private pilots making.
Right.
I'm not sitting here thinking that this guy's going to crash the plane. I'm just watching this guy like, oh, that was a dumb time to tell the flight attendants to sit down. Or maybe you should have called the flight attendants. Or maybe you should have, read the weather charts better to understand this is going to be a turbulent ride. Or, XYZ.
Right.
You don't land that well. You don't manage your speed that well. You get distracted too easily. XYZ. Nothing that's going to cause jeopardy to like the safety of flight, but at a high level, right. I can tell these mistakes are being made, and I'm like, dude, if you would have just like maybe instructed or done something other than sit right seat for your whole career before you showed up here and now you're the PIC, then, you know, maybe we'd be having a different conversation, or I wouldn't just sit here or whatever it is. And I find that those people are the most sarcastic, and they are the people that point out your mistakes before anyone else will.
Ugh.
They'll point out your mistakes. They'll point out your mistakes. They'll make the same mistake but bigger, and you just don't say anything because, you know, you're a bigger person in that situation.
Wow.
But, you know.
Also, instructing teaches you how to deal with people.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Pick your battles. I don't care. If someone's going to call me out and tell me that they didn't like this that I did, right? Because someone wanted to compliment me on my landing, and they'd be like, oh, yeah, the landing was fine, but, like, the approach was, you know, unstable. Well, if it was so unstable, why didn't you call go around, buddy? It couldn't have been that unstable. Right. You know what I mean? Just why say anything? Someone gives me a compliment, just leave it alone. Just because you're not getting compliments because you don't have good landings doesn't mean that you need to take away from my good landings. You know? Right. And that's how it goes sometimes. Right. That's just personality differences, typically. Now, people are definitely varying in ability. But I mean, let's be real here. The differences aren't huge. It's not like massive stuff. It's like a tennis player, okay? Or like any professional sports player. I just think of tennis because it's an individual sport, right? Golfer. Golf, I can't really understand that situation. But tennis, okay, you have the world number one, well, it's changed now, but let's say Djokovic, right? Djokovic, great player. Roger Federer, great player. Rafael Nadal, great player, right? They absolutely dominate the sport, right? They will take the number 500 ranked player in the world, and they will beat that person to a pulp. They will beat them they'll beat them in 2 sets, right? Typical time. Let's say it's 40 minutes a set or whatever it is. They'll beat them in 2 sets in about 20 minutes each time. They'll probably finish the match in under an hour. They will destroy that person. That person is the 500th best tennis player in the world. We have we have over 7 billion people on Earth. And you're number 500, right? You're an amazing athlete. You are incredible at your sport. But somehow you're still getting pummeled by someone else who's that much better than you, even though that you can beat literally everyone else except for everybody above you, right? I mean, obviously you can rank up or whatever it is. You get what I'm saying, though?
Right.
But as a tennis player who's not even near a professional level, right, and you're watching it, you're like, the little things that this person can do better. Or sorry, you're watching, you're like, oh, the number 500 guy, you watch him hitting with his hitting partner, it looks the same as the guy that's number 1, right? But there's somewhere in there, right, where the number 1 player in the world, right, is taking this tiny, minute detail, exploiting it to the point where he can just demolish someone that you're watching. You're like, this is the best tennis player I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen anybody hit this well. He's hitting so hard. I don't even know how anyone returns any of his balls, XYZ. And then there's someone else that's so much better than this guy that he makes this guy look like he's never played before.
Whoa.
Right? It's just like that. You fly at a very high level. I'm sure like the Blue Angels, right? Thunderbirds. Someone gets off their where they're supposed to be by 6 inches, and they're like, man, you suck, right? Because 3 inches is typically their threshold, let's say.
Right.
It's the same thing. You're watching this and I'm like, I can't even believe they're flying anywhere near this close. If they were feet apart, I'd still be impressed. Meanwhile, these guys are getting mad over inches. It's the same situation. When you get to a certain level, it's like, okay, are things going to go wrong? No. But are you going to judge somebody on something very small? Yeah, for sure.
Standards get much tighter.
Way tighter. But not in a way that's uncomfortable.
Right.
It's more like, hey, everyone's just at that level. Right. It just is what it is. It's not like you have to work super hard to get to that level.
Right.
It's just that after a certain amount of time, after a certain amount of experience, the amount of things you notice is insane. But if you instruct, you will actually get there a lot faster, and then you'll grow a lot more, and then these little things start to add up, and you're going to fly with people, and you're like, dude, I would not be that way as a captain. I know for a fact.
So everyone should flight instruct.
I think so. I think it's one of the most important jobs you can do. Everyone has talked about, like, there's different ways of learning, like audible, like visual, kinesthetic.
Everything.
Teaching has always been the highest retention rate of anything.
100%.
It's like, oh yeah, like if you're really good at, you can go through audiobooks and learn stuff, right? Okay, sure. If you're like good, you're probably retaining like 40% of whatever it is you teach. It's something like 90 or 80 or 90% that you're retaining.
Right. Yeah.
So
crazy.
It's important.
Well, guys, if you're out there flight training, become an instructor. Become an instructor. Look at them. Tell them.
Dude,
it's big stuff. It's like, real.
You're looking at everybody who.
I'm with you. I agree with you.
They go and fly.
I agree with you.
135, whatever it is. They fly something faster. They fly something bigger. They get some sweet gig, whatever. I'm just telling you.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I need to do some people have been asking me what the whole point of this cast is, talking with people.
Yeah.
It's interesting because when I first started it out, I came from a standpoint of I want to share with people information about people's jobs and what they do. But what I quickly realized, this is fascinating, is that what people do is interesting, but what I found I've become really interested in is like the people behind, the people who are doing what they do, like the people, not the job, the people. And so this is incredible because we spent, I don't know, about 3 hours right now.
Yeah.
And you saw there's so many things we didn't even scrape the surface on.
Yeah.
But there's so much to you. Like there's so much to your story. There's so much to your perspective. You know what I mean? Like if you think of the number of pilots in the world and you're just one of them.
Yeah.
And there's an endless amount of stuff we could talk about from your perspective.
100%.
And someone else's perspective will be completely different.
Completely different.
Completely different. I'm sure I could sit here with 20 people who'll argue why instructing sucks.
Yeah, 100%.
And I'm not saying one's right and one's wrong, but I'm saying like, so here's my point. When I first started this thing, I thought that I'm going to just sit with people and just tell me about your job.
Yeah.
But that's almost boring in comparison
for sure.
to your deep perspective about what you do.
Like I can just look that up.
Right.
Look up what your job is.
Right. And your opinion, right? So Google could tell me, an airline pilot needs 1,500 hours. But Google can't tell me what Andy's specific personal perspective and opinion about XYZ is.
Yep.
And why he holds that belief.
Uh-huh.
And so I think specifically because I'm really into that, today was awesome. You know, just being able to sit here and pick your brain.
Yeah.
And so thank you for that.
Of course.
Andy, thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
thanks for doing this. I know you drove from far away.
Yeah, I drove all the way from Alaska.
Yeah, you drove.
Yeah, I was like at the tip over there. I was like looking at Russia.
Yeah, looking at Russia.
Yeah.
Dude. That's a whole other podcast talking about
right?
You're great. But dude, seriously, thanks for doing this.
Yeah.
Meant a lot.
It was a lot of fun.
Loved it. Man, you got to come back on.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
Yeah, we're gonna have something. We have to talk about something really specific.
Yes.
I want someone to. We need to have some disagreement. Someone needs to be like a complete different.
I actually have someone in mind who I want them and you together, and the three of us will sit here and we'll talk about stuff. I don't know about disagreements. Maybe disagreements. Yeah, we could find, but even just things that we agree on, just to talk about stuff. I think there's a lot of things that we could get deep on.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be super sick.
But yeah, dude, thanks for making it happen.
I'm in the area, so I can come down anytime.
In the area. You're just 2.5 hours away.
Yeah.
By plane.
Yeah, right.
2.5 hours away by plane. But no, seriously, dude, thanks for doing this.
Of course.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Incredible. Ladies and gentlemen, Andy B. For president.
I'm running at 2024.
Solid. Yeah. Dude. Thanks, man.
All right.
Incredible.